Thank you. Before we begin our regular City Council meeting, I'd like to finish the business of the meeting we just concluded. This is our City Council adjourned regular meeting closed session of April 7th. Mr. City Attorney, is there an announcement in an open session of the decisions made in closed session?
Yes, Mayor, there is. As previously announced, the City Council in the closed session to discuss 3 items of litigation. With respect to items 2 and 3 identified on the agenda, the Council gave direction on a 5-0 vote. With respect to item number 1 on the agenda, the Council gave direction on a 3-2 vote, with Council members Sherillian and Franklin voting no.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll now call to order our City Council regular meeting of Tuesday, April 7th, our regular meeting at 6 o'clock. And we'll begin with a pledge to the flag. You can all rise, please. Place your hand on your heart and begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody gets a pin.
Thank you all. Madam City Clerk, so roll call, please.
Councilmember Tarnay?
Here.
Councilmember Sherillian?
Yes.
Councilmember Haworth?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Franklin?
Here.
Mayor Lesser?
Here. For a ceremonial calendar item tonight, we are presenting to the Neptunian Women's Club a proclamation declaring April 2026 as National Volunteer Month and a certificate of recognition for their exceptional dedication, leadership, and impactful service to the community. The two come together as follows. April is National Volunteer Month. In our community, the Neptunian Women's Club has provided exceptional service to our community and region for, I think, 117 years. Founded, I believe, in 1909. This was before our city was incorporated in 1912. They volunteered from the get-go on things like establishing our first school, establishing our first library, and preserving our sand, our beach, by planting, I think it was ice plant and other plants to preserve it. In the 117 years since, they have been actively involved in volunteering in our community, and we could not think of better sort of representatives of the whole spirit of volunteering than the club. And we are pleased, and I'm pleased, to invite down here to maybe talk a little bit about the club and what the club is doing now, Mary Reggie, who's the parliamentarian, Val Ray, who's the financial administrator, and Mary Chief, if I pronounced it correct, the Vice President of Philanthropy. Come on down. So why don't you please introduce yourself and your role with the club?
I'm Val Ray. I'm the financial administrator. Basically, what that means is I collect all the money. I don't pay any bills. I actually joined the club in 2008, was a member for several years, and then left for a while. Actually, I lived in Manhattan Beach for probably 50 some odd years. We moved, as I say, we took our money and ran to El Segundo. About 15 years ago, but we still love Manhattan Beach, and it's a wonderful town, and I enjoy being a Neptunian, so.
So maybe I'll pass it on. Just identify yourself, your role, and then we want to hear a little bit about what the club has been doing of late.
Hi, my name is Mary Reggie. I'm the parliamentarian, which means I'm in charge of the rules, the codes, the bylaws, all the legal stuff. And our club, basically, we do philanthropy, we do fundraising, we give back to the community, we do scholarships. We are just deeply involved in helping our community, and we're willing to do whatever we need to do to keep the community strong.
Hello, I'm Mary Chiefy, and I've been a member of the club since 2014. The past couple years, I've been VP of Philanthropy, which The three of the legs of philanthropy are our in-kind donations, our volunteering throughout the communities, and our monetary awards that we also give to nonprofits and charities. In addition, we sponsor the, this year it was the 46th annual student art competition, and also scholarships, and the Santa Float we also contribute to. So we've got our hands in lots of different things.
Thank you. As one among other council members who were present at the art show, it really was, every year it's so inspiring to see what these young people do, and so grateful to the club for sponsoring that. So on behalf of all of our colleagues in the city, I'd like to present to you a special award for the Neptunian Women's Club specifically, as well as the proclamation related to this being National Volunteer Month. So who would like to carry it there? And yet, there's still more. City pin. And maybe we can get a picture all together. Thank you. We now move on to item E, approval of the agenda and waiver of full reading of ordinances. There is a motion by Councilmember Haworth with a second by Mayor Pro Tem Franklin with no items removed from the consent calendar. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Call for the question.
Motion passes 5-0.
We next move on to item F, which is City Council and Community Organization announcements of upcoming events for up to 1 minute per person. And if you would like to speak but would like a microphone to be brought to you, to your chair, just raise your hand and the city clerk or assistant can come to you. So please, anyone in chamber that would like to make a community organization announcement.
Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, city officials, Brittany. Bobby with WM, outreach educator for the beautiful city of Manhattan Beach. Finally, we're here. It's Earth Month. We got Earth Week and we got Earth Day. A lot of things going on in it. We got slides even coming up. Just a reminder, we'll have a month full of touch-a-trucks, be tabling at Brittany's event coming up for the tree planting. One of the things we just wanted to get out there for your home organics. A lot of people on the green team at MBSD do it. They put their food waste in a paper bag, and they throw it in the freezer. Night before their trip, when they pull the carts out, they go ahead, they put it in there. It's great. Baking soda, throwing it into the cart is a great way to help reduce the odors. Where I live, there's a lot of pine needles, so before I bring my trash cans in, I scoop them up, I put them in there. That way the food waste goes on top of there before my yard work comes. It helps reduce the smells. The slides were fabulous. They were going to awe-strike you. Seriously, it was going to take your breath away.
Did you have
100%
smell-o-vision?
it was. I'm just teasing you. That's all I got. Wishing you guys all God's blessings.
Thank you. Let's see if we can, I want to give you one more minute, see if we can get the slides. Do we have the slides?
Oh, yeah.
All right, there we go.
There we go. Earth Day.
There are the slides.
Sweet.
Is it just one slide?
Oh, there's
Oh, keep
There,
going.
and there's, very good.
Well done.
Okay, thank you.
I'm the library. Yay. Hi, Cassandra Sargent with the library. I wanted to first extend my thank you to the fire department. We had a great story time on Friday. Over 100 people in attendance. They got to learn about fire safety, got to play with the fire truck. It was a very good time, so I appreciate them taking time out of their busy days. So next up, next Tuesday, we have a writer's workshop for how to start writing your book. So you can learn to overcome your writer's block, how to structure your outline, and start writing your next story with a writing coach, author, and editor, Yasmin Boswell. It also might be great if you're ever looking to write your memoirs and get a few of your stories written down to share with your family. Also, we're ready to finally announce our new speaker series in collaboration with the Manhattan Beach Library Commission. It is going to be Julia Quinn, Saturday, May 23rd at 2 p.m. Miracosta High School Auditorium. Julia is the author of the Bridgerton series and will be diving into all things swoony and steamy as we discuss her books and the romance genre. So we'll have photo ops, snacks, and pages will be selling copies of the books. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not just for the romance. To David.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. My name is Brittany Coker-Moen. I'm your Environmental Programs Administrator, and hopefully we have slides as well. But I just wanted to invite the community to our upcoming Earth Day tree planting event. This event is on Saturday, April 18th. We've partnered with Grades of Green and all 8 schools in Manhattan Beach, including American Martyrs. And we will be planting 8 California sycamores along the Veterans Greenbelt. The event begins at 9:30 a.m. That's when we'll start registration. So please sign up, come on out, plant some trees with us. I have flyers out front. Please take a flyer. We have a couple of other things going on as well. The following Saturday, April 25th, we've partnered with the Bay Foundation and a few other organizations for a BioBlitz by the Dunes. This is where you'll have the opportunity to basically come out and assess the native plants and animals that are on site. You'll use an app called iNaturalist. You can identify them, learn about them, and then you'll also have the opportunity to do a little bit of restoration work, get your hands dirty. Hopefully we'll plant some natives, maybe seed some natives on the dunes. And this is going to be up in El Porto on Saturday, April 25th, and that starts at 10 a.m. And lastly, we have an entire month of activities. So folks in the back can probably see that the back of the flyer has a stamp card. There's also actual cards that I have placed out front as well. The back has a little bit of a highlight of some of the activities, but basically there are a whole lot of things that the community can do all month long. On the front, there's 9 opportunities to get stamps. We don't have actual stamps. We're trying to prevent waste, so we've got, initial, date, sign. They can doodle whatever they want to do. There's some workshops at the library that will get you stamps, visiting the aquarium, visiting the farmer's market, the botanical garden. There's all kinds of things you can do, and then depending on if you get 3, 6, or 9 stamps, you get 1, 2, or all 3 prizes. And those prizes can be collected either at the Earth Day tree planting event from me or at City Hall in May. Thank you.
Brittany, I have a question, but maybe I'll ask if we can return the slide for the community tree planting event. Just wanted to confirm, are we asking the public to register in advance for this event to ensure that there's a space? Is that correct?
If possible, yes. We're not going to turn anyone away. It will make registration go a lot smoother if folks have pre-registered, but we will not be turning anyone away.
And age groups that are invited are?
Any and all. We've got as young as kindergarten and pre-K, so
Very
everyone's welcome. Bring your family, bring your kids.
Dogs? I mean, my dog can dig.
The holes will be pre-dug, but
Just hope he doesn't do something else.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right,
Brittany.
treat.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you.
other que- Great. Thank you. Any other community announcements in chambers? Seeing none, Patty, is anybody online that would like to speak for a community organization announcement?
No requests for community announcements.
Oh, would you like to make a community announcement, sir? No. Okay. In which case, among city council announcements, I'd like to make an initial one if I could, then I'll turn to my colleagues, and I have one of my own, and that is, I'd like to acknowledge our new assistant city clerk. Some of you may notice we have a new face here in staffing our meeting. And that would be Patricia Mattson, who is no stranger to City Hall. She served in a number of other roles in management, and we're very pleased to welcome her here tonight. Welcome. Thank you. Any council members who have announcements at this time? If not, I have one personal one, and that is my final Coffee with the Mayor is coming up on Friday, May 1st, between 9 and 10 a.m. These have been wonderful opportunities to speak with members of the community about various specific issues they have, larger policy questions they've had. I've enjoyed them. I think we had close to 16 people at the last gathering. I encourage you to come, and I'll make the announcement again at the next council meeting, but this is on Friday, May 1st, between 9 and 10 a.m. at Metlocks Plaza. Thank you. With that,
I thank you for setting that all up. So it'll be easy to step in.
Terrific. We now move on to public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city for up to 3 minutes. We ask that if you care to address a topic that's on our agenda, you choose to address it now or when the item is called. And if you'd like for us to bring you a microphone, just raise your hand. Members of the public in chambers, if you care to make a public comment, now would be the time to come to the dais.
Mr. Mayor, did you mean they could speak now or during the
I
agenda,
did.
but not both?
Correct. Thank you
Okay.
for seeking clarification.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, council members. I'm here to talk about, my name is Mike Quagletti, first off. I live at 124 19th Street, Manhattan Beach, and I'm here to talk about the characters that have been coming into the city and disguising themselves as First Amendment people. A week ago last Saturday, we were walking with my neighbor and the ladies, and we had these masked guys coming up to us with sunglasses on, masked, hats, pepper spray. And they looked at us and they started the issue with the ladies, are you a man or a woman? Now, I tried to control myself as much as I could, but I naturally said a few words to them, take your mask off and let's see who you are. And naturally they didn't want to do it, but they went on and antagonizing. And I knew nothing about these fellas, that this is what they do in the city to get a reaction, to go on social media, which I'm not on, and I guess they make money on this kind of thing. So anyway, being a father and everything, it took about everything I could not to grab those cameras out of their hand, which I'm glad I didn't and everything. But I did call the police department, and an Officer White came up to me, and he proceeded to address me of what First Amendment rights everybody has. And the way I was addressed, I felt like the bad guy in the whole situation, okay? So this went on for a couple of minutes, and as I turned my back to walk away, my neighbor says Officer White went and fist bumped the guys and says, I see you on social media, like that's a badge of honor. And is this the way our city is kind of ran with our police department now? So later that day, I called the police chief and left a voicemail, as well as the city attorney, which I both never got a return call. This was a week ago last Saturday. And I would think at least the police chief, I understand maybe why the city attorney didn't call me back, but the police department. And I just kind of want to address that if there's something that we can do that at least protects us as the citizens in the area of fellas like this. I went on, I continued on, I went to have breakfast, and I walked up the shade, I sat down, and apparently they can't come into establishments. Well, I guess my time's up, huh?
If you could just come up with a
Anyway,
conclusion.
make a
that'd be
long
helpful.
story short, they didn't come up, but they harassed everybody that was sitting at the French place with the cameras. If you were sitting on the exterior of the restaurant, they were harassing you. So I hope there's something we can do, and it'd be kind of nice if the police chief would call you back. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Richard Haft. Mike's neighbor. I live in Manhattan Beach, happen to be an attorney as well. I was present during this entire event, and I can tell you that there were people standing with kids that were frightened. When I addressed the police officer, he had a canned First Amendment response, which from a legal standpoint I felt was totally inappropriate. The cuss words coming out of these four individuals was not tolerable. And I know for a fact, as a general law city, you have certain rules and regulations under the municipal code that clearly these gentlemen were violating. But the real problem was that the city attorney or the police chief has already advised the police officers what to say, and I think that we need to do something about this, because not only were they taking pictures, but then they post them on social media, and what they're trying to do is get people to react adversely, hopefully hit one of them so they can file lawsuits. You're looking at a bad situation here, and you need to deal with it. They're going to all the different cities, and I can tell you for a fact that it was very disturbing. There was a lady standing next to me with a baby. She was scared out of her mind. This is on a Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I saw the people afterwards, as Mike did, harassing people that were eating at right around the area there at Metlocks. And I think you need to do something about that. I'm not going to tell you as a lawyer what you need to do, but I certainly think you need to look at the situation, look at the code sections, and determine what needs to be done to protect the citizens. No one should have the right to walk around and harass people on a Saturday afternoon. That is not First Amendment rights. You know, it is, especially now it's going on in this country, masked individuals taking pictures and invading your space is not something we want to see happen here. So I'm just asking you if you could take a look at this situation and maybe figure out a way to resolve it and have the police officers actually take an active role in making sure the situation doesn't get out of control. Officer White did not do that at all. Clearly, he's under instructions as to what to say. So I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members?
Excuse me, Mr.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may make a comment and ask a question. City Attorney Barrow, this is not the first time this has happened. Is there anything we can advise our residents to do or to protect themselves and protect their loved ones when they're out being harassed in such a manner?
It's a very good question. We had this in the context, they were 2 or 3 years ago approaching cities and harassing like the city clerk and employees. And we actually even had a coach come in and talk to our employees because we felt the need to, protect our employees. They need to be treated like everyone else, but that doesn't mean there's nothing you can do. So, I mean, if they're obstructing the sidewalk or they're perhaps interfering with ADA rights, there's something we can do, but those type of things, it's tough to enforce against, the entire public. But at the end of this meeting, if the council wants us to explore additional measures, we could take a look at that.
Okay,
Great. Sir, Mr. Packwood, you may proceed.
great, thank you.
My name is Steve Packwood. I'm here to talk about a recent ruling I became aware of that involved the city of Manhattan Beach and our housing element. I understand that a portion of our housing element now has been declared by the courts to probably be not legal from a perspective. I know that Assembly Mayor Chachi is trying to resolve the issue from a legal perspective, but I want to know what the city council is doing for it as a backup. As you recall, this is probably one of the most important issues that has faced Manhattan Beach, with high-rises coming in and all this and all that. Even Mayor Lesser previously has stated this is going to be changing the perception and what we know of Manhattan Beach from that standpoint. It's changing. We need to take a proactive approach instead of sitting back and waiting for the assembly, hopefully to pass it. I don't know if they will or won't from that standpoint. But you need to have a backup plan. And here it is, it's been passed. We've heard nothing from the city council, as usual, in terms of what we're doing to do it. I know we'll probably hide behind issues, well, because of confidentiality, we can't tell you. We haven't been sued yet from that perspective, so I don't know why you can't relate to the community, A, that we lost our appeal, us as a group, and here's what is happening. The Assembly's trying to pass this that will solve it, and if they don't, we're going to be doing this. At least give the appearance that you're thinking about it from that standpoint, because I have heard nothing from anyone. It's disappointing. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Jill Lampkin from the Chamber of Commerce. Kind of exciting to see someone new in this chair tonight. I wanted to come in during public comment. I sent you all an email earlier, but just wanted to make sure that it got read into public comment as well. But I am asking the City Council to I'm requesting that the Legislative Subcommittee review AB 649 on behalf of our small businesses in Manhattan Beach and throughout the community. I sent you the letter that we sent off to the Congresspeople, but I want everyone to understand kind of what's going on in our community in the South Bay. We have had a tremendous number of lawsuits recently that have been filed, particularly by one party. And they are all being settled in the range of $10,000 to $12,000 for very minor infractions, things like a faded parking space, the alignment of a handicapped space, or a sign that needed to be lowered by a couple of inches. And I wanted to bring to everyone's attention that the way California handles ADA law is very different than most of the rest of the country. ADA law in general is not meant to be something where there are, I apologize, I've been homesick for 2 days. My brain is not quite as lucid as it typically is. But to give you it shouldn't be a profitable enterprise for prosecuting attorneys. And to give you an example of why it keeps happening in Manhattan Beach, or in California, in 2025, California had 3,252 filings. The rest of the United States combined had 5,400. So we had more than half of the rest of the United States combined, and it's because we allow punitive damages before people are allowed to correct these situations. So I'm hoping that you guys will take that upon yourselves in the Legislative Committee to take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I have one more thing. Do I have to step away and then come back? It's totally separate.
You have a total of, I'll put a hold on your time at 55 seconds.
Okay,
You have
I
a
can do it in
total
55 seconds, no problem.
of 3 minutes. Would you like to address the other item?
Yeah, I can just
You may go ahead.
get it over with really quickly. Still me. I already had a meeting earlier with Councilmember Tarnay and City Manager Ms. RECONVENE, and we discussed this, but I wanted to make sure that it got brought up in chambers as well, that recently it was brought to my attention that the parking code in North Manhattan Beach differs from the parking code in downtown Manhattan Beach and requires additional parking if there's a change of use for the structure, which is right now causing some vacancies that might otherwise not be there. So I'm asking that council take a look at that code to address it, to make it more similar to downtown Manhattan Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, next speaker.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Jacqueline Sanders, and I'm speaking on behalf of over 60 households in East Manhattan Beach who live near Miracosta High School. I came here before in October, and I was told the city did not have jurisdiction over the proposed new field lighting project that would go up at Miracosta High School. And that you guys would be reviewing the draft EIR report when it was released. The draft EIR is out. It is over 240 pages long, and yet it repeatedly concludes that there will be less than significant impact to our neighborhood. I really have to know, did you guys question this? Because the reality being presented does not match what we know will happen. This project proposes events under new field lights potentially every day until 11 o'clock p.m., along with an additional 600 to 1,000 events per year. That is not a minimal impact. That is a fundamental change to the character and safety of our neighborhood. Traffic alone is a serious concern. Our residential streets are already impacted by existing school activity. Adding hundreds of additional events annually will increase congestion, reduce emergency access, and create ongoing safety risks for family and children. There is no proposed parking for this project. It is the city's responsibility to protect residents, to monitor, manage, and mitigate traffic and safety impacts. Right now, that responsibility is not being met. There is a serious issue of transparency and trust. We understand that bond funds, after much research from everyone in the neighborhood, that public money that was paid by Manhattan Beach residents may be used for this project. Yet, the Board Oversight Committee, responsible for monitoring over $200 million in school funding, was unaware of the lights proposal until last week or 2 weeks ago when neighbors brought it to their attention by going to the meeting. Also, Manhattan Beach USD spent $200,000 on the DEIR, even while they're in the red, and this committee also did not know that they spent that money. It raises the question, who is informing whom, and why are residents consistently the last to know? This project appears to be driven by revenue generation through expanded facility use, not by student need. It is not the responsibility of the surrounding neighborhood to absorb the burden of increased traffic, noise, and disruption so that outside organizations can rent these facilities. We already live next to a high school, we accept that, but this proposal goes far. We're asking the City Council to publicly address the findings of the draft EIR, demand a thorough and honest analysis of traffic and neighborhood impacts, ensure full transparency regarding funding sources, and actively work with MBUSD to find alternatives that do not place this burden on residents. We really do love our neighborhood and our schools. We just need some help.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Sarah Williams, and I have been a resident of Manhattan Beach for 25 years. I'm speaking on behalf of the residents surrounding Miracosta High School. The $200 million bond measure for repair and upgrades of buildings in MBUSD was voter approved in November 2024. This voter approval was based on the district's updated 2024 Master's Facilities Plan. And the project list in this plan for Miracosta High School was framed through a survey of 1,352 participants. Not one participant responded with interest in lighting the Meadows Avenue athletic fields and thus was not documented in the Master's Facilities Plan. The Bond Oversight Committee began meeting in May of 2025. In August of 2025, MBUSD began adding projects on the bond expenditure link if funds allowed. But lighting was never included. And then in October of 2025, MBUSD posted a notice of preparation, NOP, of a draft environmental impact report, EIR, and a notice of public scoping meeting for Miracosta High School field renovation and lighting improvement. There are many challenges that our residents face. First being that the NOP and the EIR were being paid through by the bond measure dollars and none of the interest or prioritization of lighting was ever identified. When Did the MBUSD Board of Trustees vote to change the 2024 Master's Facility Plan, and when were the public informed? The NOP and the EIR were not received by the closest 60-plus residents who would be impacted, much less the 100 or 200 other residents. There were only 18 residents who attended the scoping meeting. There were only 13 written comments, all opposing the lighting, and there were no comments in favor of the lighting. Our neighbors, not MBUSD, notified us. This process of poor communication and transparency has left our community with eroding trust and suspicious motives. We did attend the March 2026 Bond Oversight Committee and with public comment. The Bond Oversight Committee, again, was unaware of the NOP or the EIR. They were also unaware of the changes of the project list that included field lighting. Our neighbors were tasked to comment on the EIR, and the analysis from our neighbors who have background with these documents had identified serious flaws. The EIR states that the added lights have nothing to do with Maricosta High School school use, but for the use of private for-profit sports clubs. This is out of the scope of the bond. Maricosta High School is not a commercial sports center, and there are many other field resources within and surrounding the city.
Thank you, Madam. Any other members of the public in chambers that would care to make a public comment at this time? Seeing none, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to make a public comment?
No requests on Zoom.
In which case, I'll close the public comment. Because of the Brown Act, we're unable to address items that have been raised in public comment at length, but I can ask for a quick follow-up of our city attorney and our city manager. First, Mr. City Attorney, with regard to First Amendment auditors, can you simply describe how residents should proceed? I do see that the earlier speakers are in discussions with the police department, so having some of their immediate issues addressed. But what advice can be given to members of the public that might encounter a First Amendment auditor?
Well, that's really a tough one to answer, other than having, as I mentioned earlier, having the council look at some additional measures. But to provide advice to individual residents, that's tough at this, right now, without some type of city policy or something that we can rely on.
Thank you. Next, there was a question about the Court of Appeal decision issued in the Redondo Beach housing element case. Can you offer any general comment to the speaker's comments?
Yes, so in fact, we have responded to some members of the public. The Redondo Beach case has no impact on Manhattan Beach.
Thank you. With regard to the comment about something coming to the legislative advocacy subcommittee on which I'm sorry, Madam City Manager.
I'm happy to answer that question. Since the issue was raised tonight, staff is happy to meet with the legislative ad hoc subcommittee to, number one, identify whether we have something in our platform that this falls neatly into. At that point, the legislative ad hoc subcommittee can give us direction. And if it doesn't fall into any of our pre-existing categories, we would bring it to the full council.
Great. Thank you. And for members of the public that might be watching this exchange, what the city manager is referring to is our legislative ad hoc subcommittee, on which I and the mayor pro tem sit, and we take action outside of council meetings where full council has already given us authority related to legislation and other advocacy on behalf of the city. There was a reference to parking in North Manhattan Beach. Obviously, it's a different area district and there are different standards. Is there any general comment you wanted to offer about them?
Just that if the council wanted us to take a look at the parking code from that perspective, we would have to be directed to do so by the full council.
Great. And finally, there was comment on the Maricosta lighting EIR, the draft EIR, and I believe the city has provided comments on that. Did you want to say anything on that?
That is correct. The city provided comments at the scoping stage of the EIR. We also provided comments to the draft EIR. And just as a side note, comments are required to be published in the final EIR as well as responded to. So the final EIR document will not only include our comments, but they're also required to provide some level of a response.
Great. Thank you very much. In which case, we now move on to item number H, the consent calendar. I'm going to make a motion, and that is to approve the consent calendar, which includes items number 2 through 5, but to record my vote as a no on item number 5, which is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance related to the Manhattan Beach Municipal Code to specify that public art funds may be used for performance arts and other forms of art. So I will be a no on that one item. So I've made that motion, and I see it has been seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Franklin. The comment? Call for the question.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. There have been no items removed from the consent calendar. We'll now move on to item J, our public hearings, and begin with item 6, actually. That is our one public hearing item. That's conduct a public hearing in consideration of a resolution approving a coastal development permit to approve the city parking management study report and discussion of metered parking and merchant permit parking rates.
Good evening, Mayor Lesser and members of the City Council. Masa Alkire, Community Development Director. The city's traffic engineer, Eric Van Zandvliet, will be providing tonight's staff report and presenting the item. This is in two pieces. The first is the approval of the parking management study, including the coastal development permit action. And the second is a brief staff update on metered parking and the merchant parking program, seeking council discussion and some direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Eric Zandvliet, the City Traffic Engineer. This is the culmination of almost 2 years worth of study when we hired Walker Consultants to help us with a city-wide parking study. As our Community Development Director noted, this is in a couple of parts. We'll be conducting a public hearing, and that's related to a coastal development permit to approve the study report itself and the methodologies and strategies behind it, because it is a change to our downtown parking management in our local coastal plan. Also, we're asking for you to help us pursue direct staff to pursue the implementation of the strategies, to receive metered parking and merchant parking permit updates. We have 2 items for you to talk about tonight. And then also give us direction related to potential changes to those potential parking meter rates or the merchant parking permit structure. We'll take your staff direction and then come back to you at a future time. By way of background with regard to the downtown parking studies, we have had several in 1984, 1990, 1998, and 2008, and now we're back again with a lot of high technology type of strategies this time around. We have 14 public off-street parking facilities and 500 on-street parking spaces, totaling about 2,000 parking spaces altogether throughout the city. This time around, we added the North Manhattan Beach Commercial District in addition to our downtown district. This report is intended as a guideline to help us in implementing a comprehensive coastal-approved parking solutions for all types of users, whether it's customers, visitors, tourists, employees, and residents themselves. Our goal is to improve the quality of life and to preserve our city's character. We hired Walker Consultants in May of 2024. Parking counts were made in the summertime and the fall of 2024, a high peak season and an off peak season. They conducted a future conditions study in the spring of 2025 and developed strategies and toolkits during the summer. They also conducted extensive stakeholder outreach in the summer of last year as well. The PPIC reviewed this parking strategies and toolkit at their September 2025 meeting, and then we brought it to you as the City Council to approve those strategies and toolkit. We kind of subdivided this effort because it is such a large effort.
The council approved those strategies, and we brought the entire report, draft report, to the PPIC in February. The downtown, sorry, I keep saying downtown. The city parking management study is divided into 7 different sections. There's an executive summary, existing conditions report, which is quite thick, future conditions analysis, a parking management strategies and toolkit section, an identification of potential funding sources, a conclusion, and then some attachments that include the stakeholder outreach summary and all the outreach that we conducted. From an existing conditions standpoint, here's just a quick little snapshot of what we were looking at, or what we see as an existing condition. During peak summer weekends, we are exceeding 96% occupancy in our downtown and 98% occupancy in North Manhattan Beach. You can't basically get any beyond that. Anything over 85% is considered full. During the non-summer weekends, it's still 90%. During the summer weekdays, parking demand can range somewhere between 85 and 93%. During non-summer or off-peak, averages are 85% in downtown and 65% in North Manhattan Beach. And then during the summertime, beach parking overflows into all of these areas, including the residential sections. When we're looking into the future, Walker Consultants did an analysis of future parking demand. It's broken up into 3 different sections. One is if you were to build out the properties, the commercial properties of downtown and North End at a 1-to-1 ratio without additional parking, what would that parking demand be? The second part is ambient growth, which is basically just general growth because there's more activity. The occupancy of the tenant spaces are full, that kind of thing. And then any existing unmet demand. Now, existing unmet demand is hard to calculate because if you don't have the parking, you can't provide the parking for them. But this was meant to look at anything above 85% is considered full, and people are not finding parking at that point. And so that last 15% is what we're using as the unmet parking demand. Now, the city can consider any or all of this or none of this as future parking needs. When we're looking at downtown, if you were to build out the downtown at a 1-to-1 ratio, you would probably need about 60 additional parking spaces. Ambient growth is 85 spaces, and that includes probably outdoor dining as well. And then if you were looking at unmet demand to try to bring that occupancy rate back down to about 85%, you're talking about 150 spaces. So maybe something between 150 spaces and 300 spaces is somewhere in the range if you were looking at adding new parking. In the North Manhattan Beach area, same methodology is going on here. We're looking at somewhere between 40 and 80 parking spaces in order to feel like you don't have a parking deficit. When the City Council reviewed all of our parking strategies, we went through them in detail. I won't go through them in detail tonight, but your direction was logged in, and we have 33 different parking strategies that we would be pursuing. A couple of them that the City Council decided not to pursue. This is a graph, a table showing what the strategy is. If it was a short-term or long-term type of solution, if it had a high level of cost or a low level of cost, and then maybe some additional comments that City Council had at the time. I will note the extra comments. So the short-term parking strategies include increasing on-street parking rates relative to the off-street parking rates. In other words, having a lower price in the off-street or parking lots to encourage people to park in the parking lots and not necessarily on the street, whereas the street parking would be for more higher turnover use. Modifying this parking time limits, the off-street time limits. One of the suggestions was having more of our off-street parking going from 2-hour parking limit to 3-hour parking limit for those people that are doing maybe multiple things in the commercial areas. Next one is implementing a mobile payment application, and we are currently in progress with having an app-based parking payment program and kiosks. Related to the next one, 3.2, is replacing those individual meters with multi-space kiosks, and that has already been passed and is underway. Strategy 4.1 is implementing public on-street valets. That would be an optional type of item that could be implemented in conjunction with maybe the restaurants sponsoring those kinds of valets. It helps move that parking into another area of the city or the downtown or the north end that doesn't have such a high parking demand. And then 5.1 is shared parking, where we're looking for existing private parking lots to maybe share parking between two businesses or even between the city and a business. Other long-term parking strategies would include updating our parking webpage to make everyone more aware of what our parking facilities are and where they're located. Evaluating different ways to provide parking information, either on the ground in the form of signs, on apps as part of information about where available parking happens to be at in a real-time sense as well. Related to 6.3, which is implementing some type of app-based automated parking guidance system where you, on your app, on your phone, say for instance, you can find some available parking. Those are already underway. 7.1 is implementing a flexible employee parking pass or bundled parking pass. Long-term parking meaning, in this sense, merchant parking. The City Council said, yes, let's work on implementing some type of different types of parking passes, different kinds of merchant parking permits, and directed us to conduct further study on this item and consider prioritizing it moving forward. And we'll talk about a little bit that at the end of this report, at the end of this presentation. And also increasing the parking permit rates. As you're aware, in April of 2025, last year, the city increased the merchant parking permits, and we'll talk about that as well in a little bit. You had directed us to phase in or look at phasing in at an increase in the merchant parking permit rates and different types of merchant parking permits. Number 8.1 is to improve and expand the residential parking permit program in consultation with the stakeholders. The stakeholders most importantly being the residents themselves within the downtown area and within the North Manhattan Beach area as a system of parking that might also include open public parking on a limited time basis kind of thing. And that was that strategy was also approved. When we're looking at enforcement and pricing and loading, some of the strategies included shifting some of the parking enforcement hours during the summertime later on, because it's light later on, adopting a license plate reader technology for the enforcement instead of chalking the tires, and we are implementing that as well already. Transitioning to a virtual type of residential parking permit program and commercial and merchant parking permits. That was approved, and we'll look at transitioning the applications for these permits into a electronic basis so that they don't have to come into City Hall to do that. Implementing smart parking software and real-time data, that was approved, as I mentioned, more real-time information for people to know where parking is available. Gathering information on existing commercial vehicle delivery access and loading needs. Limiting commercial deliveries to early morning or Sundays. We would be exploring that in consultation with the stakeholders being the commercial and residential properties in both the downtown and the north end. And then possibly creating flexible loading zones where it's loading zones in the morning and parking in the afternoon to provide loading areas where we want them to load instead of next to the residential homes. As far as future parking supply is concerned and funding options, some of the strategies included removing some of these, what the City Council did not approve was removing the parking minimum requirements and establishing maximum parking requirements in commercial districts. That's more of like a downtown LA type of thing where additional parking supply is not encouraged so that people use alternate means of transportation to get to downtown. This is 12.2 is evaluating the parking in lieu fee program. This is where if you have additional parking supply, you could, developers could buy into future parking supply, help pay for that future parking supply and not have to require, and not have to put private parking on their own property. 13.1 is reviewing the on-street parking supply. We have done a lot of that. We added 58 parking spaces as part of our emergency removal of parking lot number 3. So we've largely tried to squeeze out as much on-street parking as we can out of downtown. We'll also try to do that in North Manhattan Beach. 13.2 is increasing the parking supply in our parking garages and lots, the existing ones that we have, and that could include Lot 3, it could include Lot 4 in the north end, redesigning the pier lots, those kinds of things. 13.3 is constructing new parking facilities. That was also passed. This is an item that was already taken action when we acquired the U.S. Bank lot or property. You also directed us to bring this issue forward along with Project Pulse in January, and in order to better understand the challenges for what should be put there on a temporary basis, what should be put there on a long-term basis, and how that might interact with pursuing a long-term option. 13.4 is pursuing a public-private partnership to construct new parking supply for public use. And 14.1 is potentially establishing a parking benefits district or a parking authority. We're looking into that also with regard to Project Pulse. And then implementing a transportation impact fee. That's a funding type of mechanism where we could impose a transportation impact fee on future developments to help fund some new parking supply. Looking at alternate means of transportation in our downtown and our north end, looking at expanding our short and long-term bicycle parking, establishing a bike valet service during seasonal peaks or special events, implementing a docked bicycle share program with the direction to explore the feasibility of that, and also possibly a pilot project. 18.1 is to recommend different social media strategies to reduce our parking demand using alternate means of transportation, exploring the feasibility of on-demand microtransit. This is more in regards to e-bikes and things like that. Oh no, that's our next item up today with regard to microtransit services. And number 20 is to identify remote parking options as a possible way of having employees park outside of the commercial districts and then shuttling in somehow. Number 21 is considering offering discounted employee rideshare services as a means to reduce the parking as well. The list of priority projects is long, of course, and the strategies that were recommended by the PPIC to look at first would be to evaluate the Lot 4's end-of-life status and what we could do there. Negotiate with Chevron for potential parking behind the High Rose development, increasing our parking supply itself, including the consideration of Lot 4, pursuing a microtransit pilot project, establishing a task force to bundle and advance strategy implementation efficiently, so maybe kind of a task force for all of these parking strategies themselves, to explore seasonal pricing, develop parking strategy for large events and peak seasons, a more active type of parking strategy in this case, maybe perhaps, some types of special event permit parking close to our special events. Create a more active parking management program for special events and peak periods themselves. The strategies and toolkit have an implementation plan for each one of these strategies. That's what we're asking you to approve tonight. We're not asking you to approve the actual items, like raising the parking rate, but we're asking you to approve the process for that. That's included in the resolution to adopt the coastal development plan and to direct staff to implement the project study report. Let's give you an update now on a couple of items that you asked us to bring back to you in the last year, specifically short-term parking. Now, the study itself says the recommendation is to increase on-street parking rates relative to the off-street parking rates, as I mentioned, a little bit lower in the off-street or parking lots, and align them with market conditions. We are generally a little bit lower than many of our beach cities surrounding us, and then also to consider a seasonal rate structure. We're asking for additional directions so that we can come back to you in the near future with a strategy and a price adjustment program or process. As you can see in the table before you, our on-street parking rate was $2 an hour. Our off-street parking was $2 an hour, and then in our county and beach lots was $2.50. That was raised $2.50 and $3.50 after the City Council approved it in April. And then the parking study suggests that it could even go higher. One of the ways that it can move forward in increasing the parking rate is that we establish a maximum parking rate and approve an incremental cost increase based off of the cost of living or some incremental cost over the course of several years to get to that point. And then secondly is a discussion about our merchant parking permits. This is also known as, also referred into the report as strategy number 7. In May of last year, the council asked us to study a phased approach to rate increases. And as you recall that on April 15th, the City Council approved an increase in the monthly parking permit from $27 to $45 and the 6-month parking permit from $160 to $250. And those numbers thereafter still reflect a 90% discount from a 40-hour, 5-day-a-week person going and paying the parking meter. So it's quite a discount. The parking study says market rates can go up to $100 for a monthly permit and $600 for a 6-month parking permit. We have received comments and concerns from our business communities about the cost increase that we approved being a hardship on those that are required to purchase merchant parking permits in lieu of having the parking on their own developments, and also for part-time employees that may not be needing to use all those hours of parking per month. At the same time, in April, the City Council removed the discount if you bought five or more permits at the same time. Since that was implemented, we have seen in the last few months not all the available merchant parking permits have been sold. On a 6-month basis, about 28 permits have not been repurchased again, and on the number of monthly parking permits, we allow up to about 95 monthly permits. We always have available permits at the end of the month. So at this point, if you're looking at it from a cost basis, we're at a point where we're not selling all of them. There is no wait list right now for the Lot M Metlocks parking permits. And there is still a waiting list for Lot 4 because that's a special group of parking permits for the business owners immediately surrounding the Lot 4 in North Manhattan Beach. So we're asking for direction on going forward with a strategy there. I'll break in a second for questions. We did reach out to our Chamber of Commerce, our North Manhattan Beach Business and Professionals Association, and our Downtown Business and Professional Association. We've publicized this on our public media boards. We also sent it to the task force for the outdoor dining task force. They were a good collection of residents, commercial owners, and stakeholders that were instrumental in our outdoor dining effort as well. I'll leave this up for next steps. We're asking you to approve the study report and direct us to implement the strategies that are in the implementation plan. We'll be developing capital projects for some of these items that we're moving forward on, and then you'll be looking at it through the CIP lens for future funding for some of these projects as well. And then we'll return to you, to City Council, for the implementation of each one of these individual strategies that require your oversight. So you're not, again, as I mentioned, we're not asking you to approve the actual measures tonight. We're asking you to approve the strategy and the methodology behind it. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you, Eric, for that really helpful report. Turn my council colleagues first. Are there questions? Mayor Pro Tem Franklin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Eric, and the rest that were involved with this. It's very comprehensive and really a lot of good information. I want to go to slide number 11, please, if we may, where we talk about creating the flexible loading zones. I think this is from what I observe, being in the downtown area at all the different times, is we should have, certain set times, but then we also need enforcement. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are trucks that are over red curbs who just don't care. You've got them being in a loading zone at a time that you're not supposed to be in a loading zone. So we really need to none of this will be effective unless it's enforced, unless those truck drivers, I'm sure we contact them or we're in contact with the owners of those trucking businesses and the like, that these restrictions, need to be followed. And so how are we going to do that differently?
It's a multi-pronged approach, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. The drivers and the companies need to know what the rules are. It needs to be obvious on the street what those restrictions are, and we also need to have officers out there at the time that it's going on. So a lot of times this is being done early morning or done on the weekends, and we might not have as much coverage as we'd like during that time. If the City Council approves the study report, it also approves looking into some standard times when you would not be able to load, and that's much easier to enforce at that time. So say, for instance, in the middle of the night, on certain streets, certain times of the day, you're just not allowed to do it. We do have a number of flexible loading zones throughout downtown now and in North End. And those are for certain hours. And for the most part, the flexible zones are used correctly, but it's parking in the alleys or it's parking in the middle of the street or something like that. That's always the problem.
So can you just further amplify what a flexible loading zone is?
Sure.
So you come up and there's a yellow sign.
Yeah, you have a little yellow sign that says loading from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then after that, it's 2-hour parking from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night. So that's a flexible loading zone. We're trying to get the loading near where they need to be taking their supplies when parking demand is low.
Okay. So can that enforcement be at the community service officer level? I mean, they're,
Yes, these are generally community service officers, parking officers, and not the traffic officers.
okay. Great.
Eric, a couple questions. First of all, the council members received an inquiry about how this study is consistent with the city's local coastal plan. There's a reference in the staff report that the study complies with the city's currently certified local coastal program, but I didn't see references throughout the report about how it does so. Can you just maybe give a high level and general response to that concern?
Sure, and again, I'll make the distinction between this as being a study report versus the implementation of the actual item. So raising, maybe make a different, putting metered parking where there isn't metered parking now, that would be a change in our local coastal plan and our parking management. That would need an approval, maybe a change to our local coastal plan. The strategy to look into it or investigate the feasibility still complies with our local coastal plan.
Helpful. Next, I want to ask you about how changing rates influences behavior or impacts behavior. You already mentioned how the adjustment in the commercial parking pass had adjusted to behavior insofar as there are fewer applicants. But with regard to our consideration of a seasonable rate for the meters, for example, what does the data suggest? Are people in the summertime really going to notice the rate increase before they pay it? In other words, are they going to avoid parking spaces that frees up more spaces for others? What does the data suggest?
So the data suggests, especially when the user sees it in front of them, they'll see on their phone now, they'll see, oh, there's parking available at $2 an hour in a parking lot, and it's $3 an hour on the street. If they plan on parking there for 3 or 4 hours, they'd rather spend $6 in the lot than $10 on the street. And so that's what influences where they park. They may also say, well, you know what, maybe I'll take the Microtransit shuttle at $5 and not have to pay $6 or $7 or $8 in parking. So that's what influences behavior as well.
Couldn't the counter argument be that many users will just simply pay the fees because they've found a space proximate to where they want to go, which might be the beach or somewhere else? And I'm just curious how that plays into our consideration about this flexibility with the rates and or potentially increasing the rates in a moment.
Sure. It really has to do with the hurt point for that person. How much are they willing to pay before they change their behavior? When you're talking $1 or $2 or $3 an hour, that might not change many people's behavior.
And last question on behavior is, I had thought from years ago, serving on the Parking Public Improvement Commission and going to some of these conferences where you get into detail that you know from your own training, that the whole idea of raising rates was to impact behavior to free up parking spaces so that in theory, someone can find a space, they can conduct their economic activity, going into a store, buying something, and then leave. I'm just wondering to what extent that is still true, particularly as we make it easier for people to supplement their meter costs. Other than the pain point, what are we finding now in terms of how rates impact behavior?
Generally speaking, people are still stingy with their money, and so they're going to try to save a buck wherever they can.
Okay, helpful. Thank you. Councilmember Sherrillian.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm trying to get through this without coughing, so I apologize in advance. Eric, is this a correct statement that we've had more parking currently than we've ever had in the past? And part of that was due to the strategy implemented during our whatever it was that we did a couple of years ago with the K-rails and everything like that.
Yes, so when we lost parking lot
3, the
Yeah,
parking
that was-
structure,
that
we
was-
had 145 spaces in that lot. We lost 145 spaces. We scrambled to try to find some alternative parking spaces. We were able to find a large number of parking spaces on the street and a few in the parking lots as well. And then we built the interim parking lot that has 70 parking spaces. We also acquired the U.S. parking lot, U.S. Bank site, which now has 26 parking spaces on it as well. So totaling all that up, we actually have more parking spaces now than we've ever had in downtown. So anything more now is just, icing on the cake.
Great, thank you. And I know you mentioned at least 3 times that, we're just looking at the process of the implementation of these strategies. I guess, starting off as a question is at what point can council vote, or is it part of the vote process tonight to be able to say, we want you to really move on the commercial parking study versus another item? Does that happen tonight?
We are asking for priority. So that, and the 2 items that you had already mentioned were included in tonight's report, which was the short-term parking meter rates and the merchant parking permit. So we are asking for direction. We can't approve anything tonight because there's still more public hearing and public noticing that has to go out for those kinds of things.
Sure. As part of that short-term conversation about commercial parking, on which one of these items would we talk about the potential of altering some of the hours for parking for the 104 spaces adjacent to Live Oak, and then the 50 spaces adjacent to Shade between Valley and Ardmore? Although those are long-term parking by coastal standards and part of our current LCP, which is pretty old, and it's for beach access, but it's anything but beach access. So can you talk a little bit about, because it gets taken up by 9 a.m. in the morning, I drive by it regularly.
Sure, you had mentioned the parking spaces that are opposite Joslyn Center and Live Oak Park along Valley Drive. Lot 8, which is across from the Shade Hotel between Valley and Ardmore. Lot 7 also, which is across from the Vons between Valley and Ardmore. Those are all underutilized parking areas that we could look at changing those types of parking restrictions and maybe making better use of that. That could be a direction that the city council gives us tonight, and we will come back to you with some potential solutions.
But that's not a specific item as part of your strategies. How would we incorporate it in when we prioritize and say, look at merchant parking program, as well as take a look at these outdated, I've asked several council meetings the last couple of months, how many more outdated, whether it's LCP or ordinance or municipal code that's so outdated, it's from the 70s, 80s, and that need to be revised. And we're not here to just do things because we've done them this way in the past. So I'm just looking for some, dialogue so it gets into the action minutes that how can we get this incorporated in that?
Sure, there are places that can fit into the strategies that, say, for instance, adding more parking or looking at the parking hours. Those are all both strategies that we have. We'll fit your direction into one of those strategies. Asking for it just to change the coastal development, local coastal plan is not necessarily a direction, but we will, if the actions that and the solutions that you're looking for require a change in the local coastal plan, then that's what we'll be looking at. Through all of this, we would like to see what changes might be necessary for the local coastal plan and do it all at the same time.
Gotcha. I'm just looking as an opportunity to refresh something that has been, we have 10 hours on one side parking all day, other side's 5 hours. And are they being utilized? And I don't know if the study, again, this might not be the place to talk about it, but for the concept of it being into the minutes, that these are not being utilized for what they were intended for. Mm-hmm. So I think that's it. For all transparency, I had a nice meeting today with Masa and Eric and they answered a lot of my questions. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Howard.
Yeah, based on Councilmember Shrillian's question and your answer that there is technically, or there are more parking spaces in downtown than before because of all of the great efforts of the staff during the great crisis of Lot 3, which was let no good crisis go unwasted, right? So now we have more parking spaces, but would you say, so now there's empty parking spots, or are those spaces utilized? And is it,
I think it's unequal as far as how it's being used. There are some underutilized lots that are farther away from downtown. There's still the need for merchant parking, and that hasn't been addressed with the addition of the new parking that we have.
Okay, thank you, very helpful.
Great. Any other council member questions? If not, we'll open this item up for public comment. Members of the public are welcome to address this item for up to, I believe, Madam City Clerk, this would be a 3 minutes public hearing? 3 minutes. Welcome back.
Thank you. Michael Zislis, downtown business owner and resident. First, I want to thank Eric and his team because this is painstaking, difficult. There's so many moving parts. As he mentioned, the parking is 97% full. And he says there's more parking than ever, but remember, we were out parking for almost a year, just to bring that to your attention. The parking structures, just to reiterate to everybody in the community, were built in the downtown by the business owners, not by the city of Manhattan Beach. I always want to remind everybody of that. And then when Metlocks was built, the city in its wisdom was building such a big project that downtown businesses couldn't pay for it, and we relinquished those rights to you. But I just want to remind you that please keep us in mind in your decision-making, us downtown business owners. We need more underground parking, just like Metlocks, great model. I know you're looking at Lot 3, I think, for maybe some underground parking. And I think you should use whatever money you raise the rate by to fund that with a bond or how else you do that mechanism. But, Metlocks seems to work best. It's a public-private partnership. In Eric's report, he was looking for more of those. So I think that can be another place for that. Parking revenue should only be used for building more parking and managing the current parking. It shouldn't be used for anything else. I know in the last Metlocks build, we used money to pay for the fire station and some other things. I don't think that was the intent for the parking. It should be for parking. We lost Lot 3 due to what? Improper management? Can we say that? No? Is that not a fair statement? Like it wasn't painted enough and it rusted out and just collapsed one day? I don't know what the real answer is, but I just hope we use some of these funds to keep the other parking lots in good repair. Fair enough? Please don't raise the rates on merchants. As you can see from his report, the merchants parking are available because you've hit the top of the market. $250 a spot went from $100 a spot to $250 for 6 months. And then in his report, I think he said it could go up to $600. This is not Westwood, Century City. This is Manhattan Beach, and the employees that all work in our retail outlets and our restaurants are not lawyers and doctors, okay? And remember, the employees can't ride share here or ride a bike because most of them come from pretty far outside of our city. I just want to make that clear. If you need to raise rates, do it on the street parking, which I think would slow down people from parking downtown and maybe ride share into town. I don't come into downtown to park on a Friday night or for dinner. I just ride share. It's $9. I don't have to worry about a ticket, and I don't have to worry about driving home. And I think that'll encourage more Ubers and bikes. And then I just want to bring to your attention, which I always forget, the internet in this room is the worst than anywhere in the world. So please, one up and one down. You got to fix it because it's not fair to sit here and listen to all this and not be able to do some work. Thank you.
Public speakers. I think there was a suggestion that just listening to council members was not. Anyway, next public speaker.
He's always a hard act to follow. Kelly Stroman, Executive Director for Downtown Manhattan Beach Business Association. I just want to reiterate a few points also. Strategy number 7, the merchant parking. I think if we look at raising rates, again, every time you guys do this, it really affects the hireability of a lot of the small businesses because not all the small businesses can afford to pay for the passes. It's already an issue with locations of parking for individuals to have to walk, to a store, a retail, a salon, early in the morning, late at night. So please keep that in mind. Loading zones. As much as it's a pain in the butt, and to see, trucks unloading in weird places or in the middle of the street, and safety is always a concern, I caution you not to regulate this and micromanage it, because on behalf of the restaurants, these people receive deliveries all times of day and sometimes night. It could be a bread delivery or something. And I think, although it sounds good, it isn't always feasible for some of these businesses. They have multiple vendors who are dropping off, whether it's beverages or bread or produce or whatever. Seasonal surge pricing at the meters. I agree with Mr. Zlissis that maybe the right place to do it is at the meters on the street and not in the lots. But I think this will also affect the impulse buyers. And the people who will know that you have raised those rates are your voters and your residents. They watch it very, very, very closely. So don't think they're not going to notice it. They will. And then one more thing that I don't think it's included in this, it just occurred to me that I wanted to bring up again. Lot 1 has had a freeze on issuing new passes for merchants for years. It's a problem. You can't, if you have a business down there, you can't get a new permit if somebody, if it ages out and a person, leaves their business. This has to be lifted. You have empty spaces in Lot 1 that are not being used. So that's my comments for now. Thank you.
Can you tell everybody where Lot 1 is, just so everybody knows?
Lot 1 is off of Manhattan Avenue behind Page's Bookstore, 900 Club, that in between 9th and 11th.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Bringing gifts.
Those don't look like gifts.
Merry Christmas. Mr. Mayor, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Jim Burton, longtime resident. I'm going to disagree with our traffic engineer about the coastal development permit. This body's being asked for a finding of fact. And the finding of fact is that what you're being asked is consistent with the local coastal plan. I have an issue with zoning, that I think we've got zoning in the city that isn't certified in our existing local coastal plan. And I think there's some legal vulnerabilities, if you will, on how you approach coastal and how this is handled. But that's in my letter, it's documented, and I want to talk about other things. Number one, kudos to staff and our consultant, Walker. I think this is a solid piece of work. I think there's a lot of effort that went into it. As a 30-plus year downtown resident, I am concerned about the residential aspects of this, and you saw in my written correspondence how I think Manhattan Beach is just extremely unique. But before I get into some details, we've been here before. This is the 2008 study, which I give kudos to, and I think Eric was here. But the residential parking permit program was originally adopted in this. We have the mobility plan, PPIC 2014 goals, provide sufficient parking for residents and commercial needs. The final mobility plan 2018, residential neighborhoods protect from commuter traffic, sufficient parking, residential commercial needs. Downtown specific plans provide residential parking permit system that provides residents with the downtown core parking privileges, limited areas nearby their residence. A general plan, protecting residential neighborhoods, commercial uses typically generate traffic and noise. Such effects can erode the quality of residential neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. We've been here before, and for this study, I go to, I don't know, we're in here somewhere, short-term strategies, where it talks about residential parking permit program. I'm looking for meat and teeth and something that we can do, and the strategy the city may consider improving, the city may also consider, the city may consider, the city may also consider. I'm looking for something for residents. This city is surrounded. There's residents right there, there's residents right here, and I said we're one of the only coastal cities in all of California where you need to drive through a residential area in order to get to this commercial. I think maybe Balboa Island and Carmel might be close seconds, but Balboa Island is not on the ocean, it's in the bay. Anyway, I think that whatever happens tonight's direction to staff should be to make sure that residential uses are protected. I'm going to leave it at 3 minutes. I'll be here all night. Thank you.
Please note if we need a deputy clerk, we got Mr.
Great, thank you. Any other public comments on this item in chambers?
Really?
Hi, Council. My name is Pai Wei, and I'm a 25-year resident who lives near Miracosta. I'm here to enthusiastically support the concept of microtransit as part of the plan, because I think it's going to really change the ability for seniors, kids who don't have the ability to drive yet, access to the rest of the city. I live near Miracosta, which is 2.5 miles away from the the closest Beach City Transit stop. So we're really underserved in that corner of the city. So having microtransit would really change the ability for us to access. I'm also hoping that the plan includes microtransit that connects directly to the metro station in Redondo Beach or the Douglas station, the Douglas Street station, which is both stations are exactly 0.7 miles away from the city borderline. But if we could extend that coverage to connect to the metro trains, that will give all the residents the ability to go to LAX station by using microtransit, and that would be a great way to take traffic off our streets, have the ability to get back and forth to LAX or to commute to work using the microtransit. So I think that will give us the city the ability to reduce traffic, especially for tourists coming in from the LA Olympics. They could take the the Metro Rail station and connect to our city. But I'm just hoping that the microtransit plan would just maybe expand the reach just a little bit so that it would connect to the major metro hubs, and that would really open up the ability for residents to go anywhere. My father-in-law is 93 years old. He can't drive, but he would love to be able to go different parts of the city, by himself. And I'm sure there's a lot of kids at Miracosta who are stuck after school. They don't have transportation options, after the buses leave, and they have to stay for their after-school programs. They could take the microtransit back home. They don't have to rely on something as expensive as Uber to do basic transit. So I'm just hoping when you consider the plan, please connect it to the K-Line station, at least one or the two stations, Douglas Station or the Redondo Beach Station. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments in chambers on this item? Seeing none, Patty, is anybody on Zoom that would care to address this item?
No requests on Zoom.
All right, in which case we'll close public comment or the public hearing, because this is a public hearing item. Turn to colleagues. Who would like to start us off? First, are there any questions? Or Councilmember Howard?
Well, I have a process question, I suppose. I think I heard our traffic engineer say, adopt these overall strategies, that we're not going into the weeds on each one and each thing, so I just want to confirm, if that's, that we've approved a lot of these strategies, right? So we're just sort of, conducting this public hearing and adopting a resolution. I do want to say just a couple of comments. I understand the concern brought up by a resident about, we need to do a plan, our local coastal plan update. Sorry, I've been traveling, so I'm a little of it too. But I think that we're doing this the proper way, and as we go into checking into our local coastal plan, it will fit into it. I mean, I trust our staff to make sure that we have no sort of improprieties there, but I appreciate that comment being raised. And I also just, I do want to understand maybe from our traffic engineer about Lot 1, if I could ask a question about that, and then I have another comment. But, so, yeah, because I know that, I mean, that's the big, why can't we buy any more passes for that? So, not we, but they.
Right. In 2008, when we approved, when the council approved the city parking management study, downtown parking management study, as part of one of those strategies was to basically sunset out the parking permit, the merchant parking permits in Lot 1 over time as businesses stopped operating. Then they wouldn't be able to have, no new businesses would be able to get permits there. But the existing businesses that had Lot 1 permits still have them. At the same time, or afterwards, what we did to compensate for that was that we did issue more parking permits for Lot 2, but they're allowed to park in Lot 1. Okay, so there was still the ability to purchase Lot 2 parking permits and be able to park in Lot 1. I know it's a little confusing. And at the same time, we have not opened up new parking permits for Lot 2. And so there's 42 parking permits for Lot 2, and there's 20 parking permits for Lot 1. Either one of those parking permits can park in Lot 1. As part of revisiting all the merchant parking permits, as we've talked about tonight, that will be one of the items that we will discuss and talk about. How do we address merchant parking permits in Lot 1 and Lot 2?
Great.
And we'll come back to you with
Okay,
regard to that.
good, because I was going to suggest, well, just because we did it that way in 2008 doesn't mean we need to do it that way now.
Right, we don't need to keep doing it.
Thank you, and that helps a lot with that. So, and the other thing, I know Mr. Sislis brought up that we have in our table that we could raise the merchant permits, I think it was up to $600 for, and I apologize, I don't always keep all the numbers straight, and then there's another one. And I just would like to suggest to our colleagues that, we set some sort of schedule, because I don't think it's right to just keep it flat, right? So I don't want to do that, frankly, but I do think, I don't want it to be this thing, or I would suggest that we make sure that it's not the kind of thing where in 3 or 5 years, merchants are this another huge, to them, huge increase, that it needs to be phased in a little bit at a time. Otherwise, these are small businesses dealing with big challenges. So I think if we could make it a policy that we do this gradually over time and not all of a sudden say, now it's $300, whatever. So that'd be my comment.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Shoya.
Thank you, and I like that idea that Arrow just brought up, maybe like a CPI or incrementally. So I guess, again, process question. I know we're talking about these charts. I'm all for leaving merchant permits, parking permits alone, as stated by the public and by traffic engineer, that we reached the threshold, that now we no longer have a waiting list, which is good, because there's, in the sense that one way it's bad because it's a higher rate, but the other way it's good that new people can apply and get permits. So I guess a process question would be, we're improving the strategies, and then these would come back to us at a later date as we prioritize them, and staff would provide us with different rate options for, I guess it's a question to my colleagues, is that the way that this is going to work?
Yes. Think of it this way as a process question. You approve the implementation plan and the study report. We will come back to you with regard to merchant parking permits. What do you want us to come back with? And that question would be, say, for instance, do you want an incremental increase over time? Do you want to add more parking permits to be available? Do you want to change
who distributes and how many permits each business may be able to get. How do you address parking permits that are required as part of a conditional use permit versus ones that are voluntary?
Gotcha.
Those kinds of things.
So it's more or less just overall discussion on asking for direction from council for the entire refresher.
Yeah, the whole program.
The whole program?
Yeah.
Okay. And as part of that, will that be also looking at those other opportunities adjacent to Shade Hotel and Live Oak, those areas, or is that?
It's a slightly different topic, but you can also give us direction on that.
Okay, because I mean, that's something that I'm interested in because that's dated at least 35 years in our LCP, and I think we should at least look at how many hours we're providing for free parking and whatnot. But, and then, same thing with the parking meters, you're just not really looking for action tonight. You're going to bring it back to us as we prioritize it.
Correct. Are you interested in having a cost of living increase or an incremental increase in general parking rates, metered parking rates over time, and maybe having a maximum of $5 or whatever that we can go up to over the course of 5 or 10 years, rather than to come back every time for a request to increase it by 25 cents or 50 cents and have to go back and have another coastal development permit for each one.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. 'Cause we also have appealable and not appealable zones. So
yes, of course.
You got all those things happening, so it makes sense if we put something in there. I think that's it. Eager to hear the motion at some point.
Eric, before you sit down, so I want to clarify a larger policy issue which I picked up from public comment, and then I want to clarify exactly the direction that staff seeks tonight. And that is, to the extent that merchants are saying, even though the rate is underwritten, in fact, by the public at a significant cost, what are the options for businesses in terms of getting their employees to be able to get to work? What are the other viable alternatives to the extent that the rates, if they were to be brought up on an incremental basis, phased in over time, that would become obviously increasingly expensive for businesses? What are the other options? Is there some form of ride share that we heard an example of? I'll let you answer the question.
Sure. I mean, we have an opportunity in the next item today. If a person happens to live local or they go to, or they're coming in via transit somehow, they might be able to take that last mile trip on our microtransit system. The part-time employees should be probably offered a part-time type of permit that they don't have to pay $600 over six months or $45 over a 1 month period. Maybe have something that they use less hours, but they also pay for fewer, the permit's less costly. So there's some different types of ways to manage parking permits as well.
Okay. So we've raised a number of issues. We've sort of framed what staff is looking for, but I would like for you now, one more time, to identify exactly the direction that staff is seeking from council so we can come up with a motion.
Would you like to take a stab at that?
I'm going to take a stab at this. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for the question, Mayor. So again, because council had already directed us to come back with these exact strategies in the toolkit, I think it would be best if council makes a motion to adopt the resolution if that's what you desire to do. But then also, if there are specific strategies that you would like us to prioritize, we don't have to go through every single one and say, number them or anything like that. But if there are particular strategies in the toolkit that you would like us to focus on bringing back first rather than later, that's the kind of direction that would be helpful.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Franklin, did you want to?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the difficulty here is getting feedback as far as rate elasticity, as they said, as I recall from my business economics. In terms of the meters, are we charging too much? Where do we see that? How would that be expressed? Have we gotten complaints, at the city about the cost of our meters right now. We're hearing from the businesses. The first clear signal we got is the fact that there's no over demand for the permits. So the pricing is probably just about right. But I'd like to get that kind of feedback, I don't know, kind of institutionalized, so that we can really get a better idea of if we are going to raise the rates, what should they be raised to, the different, the forms of payment, I think we're okay there. Everybody's used to kiosks. But I think this council and future councils would appreciate that kind of pathway to get that information, instead of sort of stumbling in the dark going, okay, we're going to raise it this much, and then sit back and watch. I mean, I don't know exactly how to do that. So that's where I would like to see some help and some resources put to, is that kind of feedback. I mean, whether it's putting it on, of course, everybody's going to say the parking rate's too high, but, you can get some really good questions in there, but by like, where else do I mean, what other cities do you go to? What are their rates? You seem to be paying them there. Are they giving you other features, and that type of thing?
Certainly, and you deserve that. Both implementation plans for the metered parking rates and for the merchant parking rates suggest that we consult with the stakeholders, the people that are using the parking and the businesses, to see, is this appropriate? We also provide, every time that we have a potential meter rate increase, we always do a survey of the neighboring cities to see what are the other cities charging and how it's affecting them. So that would be brought back to you before you have to make that decision.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. I see that there has been a motion that's been made by Councilmember Sherrillian, and that motion is? Okay. Sorry, Councilmember, your microphone.
Sorry, I was coughing and trying not to cough into the. Again, fantastic work on this. It took many years, and you look at the slide, I think it's the third slide. It shows you every opportunity to get engagement from the public. And I appreciate what Mayor Pro Tem Franklin indicated, that, we really need to engage more with the community and find out what the threshold is if we do increase parking meters. But that's not tonight. Tonight is to conduct this public hearing, adopt resolution 2630, and discuss and provide direction. And so my motion would be to adopt resolution 2630, and with the caveat of prioritizing that commercial parking comes back as soon as staff feels that they can complete it with all the other work that they have, and then take a look at our LCP, our outdated LCP, and see if there's opportunities specifically to the 100 spaces adjacent to Live Oak or the 50 spaces adjacent to Shade, and if there's opportunities that best practices, new practices, over 35 years, it's been the same thing. Maybe we can take a look at that as a group when it comes back. So part of the motion is to add that to when they bring back the merchant parking program, is to look at the LCP and look for opportunities such as those examples to provide us with feedback so we can make decisions. I know we're not doing this again, but I would leave the commercial parking, again, that would come back. We're not going to say like in the motion that we would keep it the way it is, because it's already there. So we wouldn't do that today. So that would come back to us to make that decision. So, City Attorney, what else do you need from me?
So I've seconded that motion, and I just wanted to clarify on the merchant parking that we're keeping it at the base of $250
Yes.
for the 6 months.
Correct.
Okay.
And they'll bring that.
And then you'll bring it back.
They'll bring it back, and we'll have a full-on conversation about the entire program, who should get it, how many they should get, what the cost should be.
Okay.
That's not at all, I think we all agree that the threshold is where it needs to be.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Sherrillian. It has been seconded by Councilmember Charnay. Councilmember Howard.
Yeah, I have a question, certainly in favor of most of the motion. I have a question about the LCP, because you say, look at that, I guess my question, I'm going to triangulate through the city manager, if I may. Is that a direction that is going to cause us to, is opening up the LCP a bigger deal than approving like this traffic plan, this parking plan, sorry, not traffic plan?
I don't have that answer right now, and maybe Eric does, but I'd have to take a closer look at where it's identified in the LCP. And is it a coastal development permit we have to do? Or
Right.
do we actually have to amend the LCP itself, which obviously is a longer process?
Well, maybe a friendly amendment to come back with that, so that if it is a larger process, we could have just put $1 million project on us, like, I mean, else.
No, I get it. I think, again, this is approving, we're just prioritizing what they bring back as strategies. So when they come back with the staff report,
Great.
they'll say, this is, if you want the LCP changed, it was done
Great.
in 1990, and these are kind of the recommendations or the low-hanging fruits that we could make changes to, like the LCP has,
I'm good.
yeah.
I'm good. I just wanted to be
It'll
sure.
come back. It's all just a setup.
I'm great.
It's to prioritize what they bring back.
I'm prepared to, I will vote for this motion.
Madam City Clerk, is there any other direction that you're sensing council could, should provide?
I think that's sufficient.
Very good.
Is council comfortable with us bringing the parking permits and the rates to the same meeting? The parking meter, street parking meters?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
100%.
Very good.
Good idea.
Unless there's any other question or comment, call for the question.
Motion passes 5-0.
Without objection, I call for a 5-10-minute recess.
Thank you.
Stand recess.
I have soccer scores to keep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Cleared out.
Pegasus, we're ready to go live?
Great, thank you. I'd like to call back to order our city council meeting of April 7th. We now move on to item number 7, which is consideration of a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Circuit Transit Incorporated for a 6-month on-demand, point-to-point local microtransit service pilot project and appropriation of up to $540,626 in Proposition A local return funds.
All right, well, good evening again, members of the City Council. Masa Alkire, Community Development Director. Eric Zandvliet, our traffic engineer, has also been busy working on this item, bringing it to the council in all haste. That's why it is structured first as a question on if you'd like to move forward with a pilot program for microtransit services using Proposition A special funds. And then second, providing the city manager direction to work on the agreement with the provider in order that we could get this implemented very quickly.
Great, thank you. Hello again.
Thank you, Director Alkire. To give you a little bit of background with regard to microtransit in the city did have a shuttle service called the Downtowner. It operated from January to October of 2017. Nice little program, but it was limited to the areas west of Pacific Avenue, and it served generally just the western portion of the city because of the limited range that they had on their electric vehicles at the time. They were charged in the Metlocks parking structure overnight. The DBPA started discussions with Circuit in 2021, soon after the pandemic, to see if a new service could be built or start being operating for the downtown area. We also started discussions with Circuit after they proposed their first operating plan in 2023. The City Council had a third vote on November 3rd, actually as part of these parking strategies, you have a microtransit strategy that the City Council approved on November 3rd, 2025. And so here we are tonight with a proposal for you. We scrambled together and I think we have something that we can offer you. The benefits of a microtransit service is different than a fixed route shuttle or a fixed route bus. It's point to point. It's from your home to the location that you want to go and back again. It doesn't have a bus stop, although it can drop you off at a bus stop. There are shorter wait times because you're not waiting for a fixed route bus to come around. Just as if you have a Uber or a Lyft app, you know that there's real-time information. You know when your driver is going to arrive. It's app-based, similar to Uber and Lyft as well, and the payment is all online. I will say also that they do offer a phone-in type of reservation as well if people don't have that app on their phone. The benefits is that it connects the passenger or the user to potentially a transit network, a bus stop, a light rail station. We are proposing and have asked for service to go to the Douglas light rail station as part of the service area. It connects people to their medical appointments, to shopping, to encourage downtown use and North Manhattan Beach commercial use as well. It's an affordable alternative. It's less expensive than the Uber and Lyft, especially for the intercity type of trips. It is limited, geocoded to our city limits with regard to the service area. So you have to arrive and depart within the city, except for the Douglas station. It does give you a high quality, high value experience in that these are dedicated vehicles and dedicated drivers to our city only. They're local drivers, they're hired locally. They get to know our city, they get to know our passengers. The service itself can reduce the vehicle miles traveled on our streets because you can pick up more rides along the way, and so you're reducing the number of cars that are driving on our streets. It also reduces parking demand because you're not bringing a car into the shopping center, you're not bringing a car to the downtown, you're not bringing a car to your medical appointment or whatever it is. And it's also eco-friendly because these are EV vehicles, and they're charged here, and they use an all EV fleet. Different types of vehicles for different types of usage that are available. Your neighborhood electric vehicle, or otherwise known as an NEV, is your typical round town type of vehicle. If you need something that goes a little bit farther or for a longer period of time, you can use electric vehicle sedans. And then you can also use accessible vans for paratransit, for those that need special ability as well. There's also the newest, latest passenger van, an EV vehicle. It's a VW van that's could also be a potential use. That would be something that we would have to negotiate with Circuit, because that's a different cost. There are a variety of different funding options that have been used by different cities when they put in and start their own microtransit systems. You can use state and regional transportation funds such as Prop A, Prop C, Measure M, Measure R, your whole alphabet soup there. We are, in this case, proposing Proposition A funds, local return that is eligible for local transit. The rider fares can help reduce the cost of the operation. Rider fares can be somewhere anywhere from $0 to $2 to $9, depending on how far the trip is or how much people are willing to pay for it. You can also reduce the cost of the operating cost by advertising revenue. That could be either by having a vehicle wrap for a commercial advertiser, an onboard type information that's on their onboard screens as advertising, or part of the mobile app as well. Any which way to get advertising. The city can provide for the charging and the parking for the EV vehicles, and that would help reduce the costs as well. There are stakeholders that benefit from this type of microtransit, and they can also contribute some amount towards reducing that operating cost, whether it be the Downtown Businesses and Professionals Association, the North Manhattan Beach Business and Professional Association, or the Chamber of Commerce. There's also corporate sponsors that could actually be a sponsor of a vehicle or part of the operation. We have a lot of large corporations that could potentially do that as well on a long-term basis. Parking meter revenue can be used for the operation of microtransit because you are reducing the parking demand of the area of the businesses. Parking district funds, for the same reason, can be used to help fund. And also climate and transportation related type grants. Those take a little bit more work because you have to apply for them, they're competitive, and you may not get them right away. I will say that the operating plan is quite simple for, in this case, Circuit Transit, who are proposing to have this microtransit pilot program. You set the service level, the number of days a week, the number of hours per day, the seasonality of it, and how many vehicles you want to operate during those times. And Circuit Transit will give you how much it costs per month. It's up to us to reduce that cost by other means, whether it's the fare itself, advertising, corporate sponsorships, special funding, any of that. That's up to us to reduce that cost. We have explored a variety of different service alternatives, different options. And this is just a sampling of some different options to give you an idea about how costs change depending on how many vehicles, how many hours, and that type of thing. So in this service alternative number one, it would be a 5-vehicle program 2 are NEVs, 2 are sedans, and 1 accessible van. It would operate 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. The idea here is that if you start the service too early in the morning, there's not enough riders. If you have the service go too late at night, you don't have as many drivers. The number of hours still is charged because the driver's there, the vehicles are operating, and all of the rest. So the cost increases per rider over the course of the day if you don't have enough riders during your operating hours. So you want to kind of capture that peak time period. This alternative has a $2.50 fare per ride. Generally, you don't necessarily need to have discounts for multiple riders because you're actually occupying the seat. And these, if you have a 6-person NEV, and one of those was a driver, you have 5 available seats. You want to be able to charge per seat, basically. If you have no city-paid charging and parking, the net monthly cost for that is about $81,000 per month. Not cheap. On a 6-month pilot project, that's approximately $486,000. Then you can reduce that, of course, as I mentioned, with fares. Well, the fares are there with other contributions and with funding, alternate funding. Service alternative number 2 is a little bit different. Same number of vehicles, same hours, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., but the fare is now $5 per ride, still cheaper than Uber and Lyft, and the net monthly cost is $72,000 with a $431,000 6-month pilot project. Service alternative number 3 is now trying to get a little bit less expensive. 3 vehicles, 2 NEVs and 1 sedan, no vans. Reduce the number of hours from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's basically your evening restaurant rush, your 7 days a week. Now, of course, you can change the number of hours during the weekdays and versus the number of hours during the weekend. And that then at $5 per fare per ride. Monthly cost is $61,000, 6-month pilot project is $367,000. Service alternative 4 is if you want to take it a little bit longer, go to 12 months, 5 vehicles, similar to alternatives 1 and 2, 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. On off-peak season, that's during the peak season, so basically May through September or somewhere thereabouts, 4 months worth. For the other 8 months, you'd go 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. at $5 per fare per ride with a monthly cost of $53,000 and 12 months at $640,000. Now, that's again, like I mentioned, a sampling of what could be done. We are looking at we've also looked at other services in other cities, Long Beach, Whittier, Santa Monica, as well. Some of them have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some of them have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think in our city, this is going to be more of an all-purpose type of transit where you're doing a lot of different things and not necessarily just going to downtown or just going for a restaurant or dinner. And so as a pilot project, you'd probably want to say, let's err on the sense on looking at more hours to see where your peaks are. And if you have ridership during the earlier part of the day, during lunchtime or something like that, and servicing the businesses for when the businesses are open, the retail businesses are open as well. Then you can refine that after the 6 months and see if you want to continue that, change it, or reduce. Well, maybe Monday we have not enough service at all. The idea is to get the pilot project in there first and get the data out of that in that sense. So our recommendation is and there's more details in the staff report as well. The recommendation is to discuss different types of service levels and funding options for a 6-month pilot project to begin with. I believe the staff recommendation is alternative number 2. And then to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Circuit and to appropriate Proposition A local return funds. With regard to the funding source, Finance took a look at a variety of funding sources that we might have available to us immediately. And our finance director found that we could use Prop A local return funds. We have a little bit of reserve there, enough for a 6-month pilot project without affecting our other programs and projects, if you choose to do that. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I will also mention that Daniel Kramer, the VP of Program Development for Circuit Transit, is also available if you have specific questions about the service.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for that report. Councilmember Haworth, questions?
Thank you, yeah. A couple questions. Is there a base age limit or requirement? So, you know, can you be like a middle school kid and take it to junior guards? Like what is, you know, on the app, what is there?
Yeah, thank you for the question. In the operating agreement and in the terms and conditions of Circuit Transit, when you open up the app is not, you're not allowed to request a ride if you're under 16.
Okay.
Okay? Your app has to be for someone that's 16 or older. And if you are under 16, you have to be accompanied by an adult or chaperone on the ride itself.
All right. And then so the Prop A, and this might be a question for our finance director, but you say there's some funds in reserve in Prop A. And do we just get to hold on to those funds as long as we need them? Like we get them, and I know certain projects have certain limits, but do those funds just stay ours if we don't use them for this, or?
I'll have our finance director come down and speak
yes.
more in detail about our Prop A.
Okay.
Good
Yes.
evening, Libby
Hi.
Bredhauer, Finance Director. So it is not unlimited if we don't spend them in a timely manner. The statute of limitations is 3 years. We would have to return the funds. So that is why some cities who don't have robust transit programs, they end up selling the money or exchanging the Prop A funds for general fund dollars, which we have done here in Manhattan Beach before when our dial-a-ride costs were growing faster than our Prop A funds were increasing. So we did a funds exchange for that.
And is that a one-to-one exchange?
No, actually, so years ago we did it at about 73 cents on the dollar. I did just get some feedback today from other cities who had more recently done an exchange, and their rate was 75 cents on the dollar.
Okay. So, okay. Don't go away. So could, so the money that right now proposed for the pilot isn't being taken away from Dial-A-Ride?
Correct. So over the last several years, Parks and Recreation has made changes to the Dial-A-Ride program, and the cost stabilized when we've grown the fund balance in that funds. We have about $1 million sitting in the fund. So we could fund the pilot program, but we just wanted to make it clear that we wouldn't be able to fund this on an ongoing basis for years to come without making other changes to the Dial-A-Ride program or other programs.
Could this legally be used, some sort of program like this, be part, like, could there be, not, can you do this in a week? Could there be analysis on the costs and capacity use of Dial-A-Ride? And could this type of service then be swapped out for Dial-A-Ride? I mean, still, you know.
I don't know who wants to take that question, but I think, yes, that was one of the ideas of the pilot program, is then we would see what all of the trends are and how we would reallocate the funds in total.
A couple more quick questions. I'm not sure. I don't think they're for you. So I think they're for you, Eric. But maybe they're for Daniel, I think was your name. So you go to your app, Now, so are they collecting information so that we can make those determinations? So, oh, look, 65% of our riders were 65 and older, and they were going to Jocelyn Center. So then would we have access to that information?
I will have Daniel come up. He's more versed than
And then I
I
only have one
am.
more question after that.
And I believe that
Okay.
to be the case.
Yeah, the answer is yes, we track, when, we try not to ask too much information when you're creating an app, so it,
Right.
it's not a barrier, but, but we do ask your zip code, first, last name, email, date of birth. So,
Yeah.
we do know the age of our riders. We, of course, have longitude, latitude of where they're being picked up, and dropped off.
And you'll share that with us?
Yes,
So-
yeah, you have access to your own dashboard,
Okay.
with the information, you can download raw data, et cetera.
Okay, and maybe you can answer this question. So the different alternatives and the different costs, are they offset? Like, if we have a ton of riders paying $2.50 or $5, whatever it is, then you're getting that. So you're getting the fee, the fare. So would that reduce our obligation? Would that reduce the amount that we're paying to you?
Yeah,
Monthly
so
cost.
we bill basically for services rendered. So we're sending you an invoice at the end of the month saying at the rate that we agreed on, we operated X number of hours this month, the cost is this. And we collect all of the fare revenue. We don't do cash collection, so it's credit card, less any
Right.
credit card processing. That's applied as a credit onto your invoice at the end of that month.
So in other words, it may not cost us $60,000 that month. It might be $53,000, or it might be $40,000.
Yeah. The only thing I don't know in Eric's pricing, if those monthly numbers were based on projected ad revenue already.
I don't think they were.
Okay, so yeah.
Ad revenue would also drive it down.
I'm sorry, fair revenue is what I meant.
Fair
by
revenue,
that. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, great, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Great. Mayor Pro Tem Franklin.
Great, thank you. Let's see, so are these vehicles being recharged on city facilities, or are they?
So the charging of the vehicles needs to be decided upon. If we choose not to provide the electrical charging, then Circuit Transit will find their own charging locations and parking overnight. That's a charge that goes into our fee. If we choose as a city to provide that charging and parking at one of our other facilities or create that facility, then that will be discounted off with the service fee.
Okay,
It's about $900+ per vehicle per month.
okay. And is it the charge per passenger, per family?
Correct, per person,
So-
per occupied seat,
So a family of four is going to pay 4 times the $5?
yes.
Okay. And let's see, so how are they actually going to check the age of a young, adolescent? I mean, so 16 is what, is that freshman?
No.
16, sophomore?
So it first starts with the reservation on your app. You have to be over 16 in order to reserve that place. And it may be you and your child that you're reserving for. The driver, and I may ask you to come up again with regard to how they might do it how they confirm whether or not the person is underage.
Right.
Yeah, we don't check ID when you're creating accounts. So it's theoretically someone can put a false date of birth that, if they are under 16 and, they put something that makes them, come across as 16. So, there is some leeway there. Our driver, obviously if someone's obviously much younger than 16 and it seems as though they requested through their own account, our drivers can report them on the app. But again, it's the age requirement of 16 is just, it's more of a data collection law. So it's not that you can't ride the service if you're under 16, it's just not having your own account under 16 on the app.
But if you're under 16, you've got to be accompanied by an adult.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So you're not checking the ID, so a 15-year-old could go on there who looks 17.
Yeah.
Can ride and.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. And does your insurance coverage, like, provide for that kind of scenario? Because normally it'll say, like with most insurance, you got to verify the age of the child and your family and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and on our website and in the app, we have, terms of use and everything that has, all that language. And then, we have a very robust insurance. I couldn't necessarily speak to that level of coverage, but yes, we have it in our terms of use and insurance level.
I don't have this concern because all of our children pay attention to the rules of the road, everything.
Yeah, rather than 2000.
Right.
And to help answer your question a little bit more, with regard to the app and registering as a user, you agree to these terms and conditions. And so if you fail to do that, or if the rider is under 16 and they're called out on it, they're reported that this person's under 16, they will lose their privileges as a user.
But how do you track them?
It's like anything else. It's like you have to report it.
Oh, no, but I mean, so this child, we know how kids are. So these children try it, and then you catch them, but then they come back and there's a different driver or a different day of the week or things like that. So.
It's tied to the reservation. That.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So I'm sure you probably experienced surges in service and the like. So how does that impact the average response time? So if you've got a vehicle that's, I don't expect you to know the geography here, but it's on the far east part of the town, and it's got to go all the way across town to pick up a passenger, but if they get a call along the way, do they stop for that person along the way?
Yeah, so we aim to pool as many rides together as possible. Do as much as we can with as little as possible. And that's why we, like pilot programs for the data that we collect. I think even on the flip side, at slow periods of time, if we're contracting for 5 vehicles at peak, the data might show at certain times of the day, we can meet all demand with 2 or 3 vehicles. So we're going to scale back and save costs as much as possible. On the flip side, we have different things in place when there is surging, and we look at a heat map and we see where a lot of trips, similar trips, are beginning and ending. We have zones in our technology where we can make sure a car is in that area because that's at this time of day, because that's where a lot of the demand is. And then another thing we have is it can be curb to curb, door to door service. Another option that we have is essentially virtual stop. So it's a little more limiting, but it helps us to pool rides together even further. So fewer pickup and drop off points. You may not be picked up at your front door, but we're going to put a pin at an intersection to where your neighbors might be requesting at the same time. You're naturally going to be picked up at the same pickup point. So another way of doing more with less.
Okay, so do we have to make that decision, or is that done?
We can do. I mean, we can drop a pin. We can move it in a matter of seconds, either during the program, but before we launch. From our side, we would typically at least take first stab. This is where we think these should be placed, and work with staff. They might say adjust this, adjust that. But again, even after the programs, we don't need to wait till at the end of the 6 months to make adjustments on that or anything. It's when the data starts coming in, we learn, we adapt on the fly.
Okay, and the number of, so we were a little confused earlier, I was, about the NEVs. Is that the neighborhood electric
Yes.
vehicle? Okay. And that has 5 seats for passengers?
Correct, driver and 5 passengers.
Okay, the sedans have?
The sedans would be technically 4 passengers plus a driver. So three in the back, 1 up front, and a driver.
Okay, so 4 passengers. And then the accessible van?
Yeah, that would be 6 passengers, 1 wheelchair position, and a driver.
Okay, great. Terrific, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tarnay.
Did you have something to add, Eric?
I just wanted to give you back to your original question about service level or response time. During surge times, your response time may be a little bit longer. Their average time is 12 minutes or so. It may be quicker during low demand times and a little bit longer during high demand times. If we do find that if people are starting to wait 20 minutes, then we would make adjustments, as Mr. Kramer said. Maybe we pool kind of the locations more closely together, or we have a vehicle nearby more often.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Charnay.
Thank you. I think this is going to be for Daniel, a couple of questions about how things are operating in other jurisdictions. In other jurisdictions where you have the system already going, with regard to ad revenues on the wraps for the vans, what's the offset typically like?
It varies. I mean, for many reasons, when when we look at interest from advertisers, what vehicles are we using? The NEVs that we just spoke about are unique looking compared to the rest of the fleet. They typically see a lot of interest. Sedan might not receive as much interest. So, in one program in Long Beach, we have 6 or 7 NEVs and 4 Kias like that we're talking about here. The majority of the interest is on the NEVs. That's a 4-day-a-week service, Thursday to Sunday. Is that as interesting an advertiser as a 5-day-a-week, a 7-day, more consistent service, more hours, on the day? So by city, that revenue can vary. Time of year also can vary. So, I think conservatively, if we look at, what could it look like here, it also depends on what restrictions will we have on who can advertise. Do we allow, liquor, for example, Budweiser. I think if you look at, $3,500 a month per car, it's kind of, on the, lower end. It can, Santa Monica and peak summer can get, $7,000. So it's hard to quote, but, there's
Average. Yeah, thank you. That's all I was interested in. And then, so I'm really interested in just this might be back for Eric, sorry, on the dial-a-ride, or maybe even for our Parks and Rec director. For the dial-a-ride program, what's the volume like? And I see that there is an estimate, I think it's $940,000 to operate that annually, right?
Correct, and just over 6,500 rides annually. So there's a lot of variation. I think during this 6-month pilot, we'll look to see what the trends are looking like and supplemental service with Lyft for our medical rides.
Right, and then our dial-a-ride, the way it operates, it's typically just within our city, and then what if somebody goes beyond that is?
Medical rides as well.
Okay, that includes medical rides as well. Okay, I think that's all I have on the dial-a-ride side of things. And then this is, sorry, back to Daniel. On the way that the app works, can we embed and can we give senior discounts? Can businesses purchase coupons for their riders? Say I want to go to Slay's and have dinner and they can put $5 coupon into my account. Are you able to do that?
So we can create promo codes per business and limit how many uses you can get out of it. It doesn't even need to mean it's a free ride with a promo code. It could be a discounted, it could be, just a different fare. And then, so yes, there's many different uses. We can also set priority or exclusivity on a per vehicle basis. So I kind of started, on the last time I was kind of, listening, and when it came to employee parking, if there was a designated lot, for example, I'm just saying hypothetically, but, dedicated lot for employees outside of downtown, the app can still be used, and we're prioritizing with 2 of the 5 vehicles, trips beginning or ending at that lot, and exclusively used by employees with a code. So there's a lot that we can do by way of promo codes.
Okay.
And even when we look at just general fares without that, we can set caps. So it might be, we can say $2 a person with a cap of, $4 or $6. So if you're riding with 5 people, the 4th and 5th are riding free. So there's a lot of customization we can do there too.
And do you have vehicles that are large enough? I know sometimes when we have special events, our city will hire shuttles that will bring people who are visitors. So in the summer, when demand is really high, we'll have off-site parking, and then people can shuttle in. Are you able to, maybe on an à la carte basis, add those types of larger vehicles where you can transport?
We can in general, depending on what vehicle, what size we're talking about, and how much notice. But we as a company do, I mean, we worked with the Super Bowl in LA. We work with, World Cup. And so we're used to, bringing vehicles in and out, concerts, et cetera. Just depends on what vehicle type we're talking about.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have for now.
Councilmember Shuey.
Thank you. Grab my breath. Where to start? Eric, just real quick, so this is one of your items that we talked about in November, and this one kind of worked its way through as a top priority for us to look at, this item, I guess it was 9 point. This was one of the items on your parking
Yes, it also
management.
happened to be a perfect storm where we
Got you.
got everything.
I was wondering how it's kind of like, okay. Cool. And so metrics, I guess, I'm going to get into the finances a little bit. So how do we measure success? I guess that's maybe for Daniel, or maybe you.
Well, there's multiple ways of measuring success. It's all, you're measuring the usage, and this is estimating based off of about 3,000 rides per month. Similar to what the downtowner did at that time. Now, it may be much more than that, and your revenue may be from your fares may be much more than what we're estimating now. We're estimating conservatively, if you will. The ridership itself is a metric. The age of the rider is also a metric, and especially if you want to provide maybe a senior discount or something like that in the future, that would be good to know. The locations of where people are being picked up and dropped off would be a very good metric. Is there a lot of use in the North Manhattan Beach area? Is there a lot of use at the shopping center? Is there a lot of use? Is it being used, for school, in the afternoon, say? Those are metrics that we'll want to know.
Yeah, I guess for me, measuring success, you have to have a baseline of where you're starting to say, oh, 6 months later, we did this. What baseline analytics is Daniel going to be using for those people that are not using the $3,000 3,000 people that you just mentioned that we would be taking this? It's 3,000 per car or 3,000 total for
the service?
For the service, okay. So I guess how would you measure the success of this? Is it just if it goes from 3,000 to 6,000 people using it, or are we getting more parking revenue because people aren't, the metrics include like where we're picking them up? Because I would assume, you mentioned earlier that this was geo-coded, so it would be Manhattan Beach resident-centric. It would be the 4 square mile town, and all the pickup and drop-offs will be in this region, because those are where the Prop A monies are for the city of Manhattan Beach.
Correct. Part of that will be what the analytics are that we can collect. We may also want to send out a survey to say, how do you like this? How are you satisfied with this? Part of the analytics may be, is this sustainable? Did we get, ad revenue? Are other people interested in contributing to this program?
Gotcha, thank you. A couple more questions.
And also, with regard to if we can get this launched and have it available for the FIFA World Cup, does it affect the special events? And that might be
right.
And
to affect the World Cup FIFA, somebody would have to drive in and park somewhere in town and then call this shuttle service.
No, not necessarily. So since we're providing service to the light rail station at Douglas, they can come directly from the airport, use the light rail, and then hop onto Circuit Shuttle and go anywhere in the city.
But that light rail is not geocoded in Manhattan Beach, and these are it is?
It will be. It'll be part of our service area.
But it won't, we get Prop A monies for Manhattan Beach. How would we extend this out to the light rail?
because it's part of a first mile, last mile service for Metro.
Gotcha. See, your terminologies, yeah, that's why we asked question time, right? So, and then Mark mentioned, did you mention 65,000 people use Dial-A-Ride or 6,500?
6,500.
6,500?
Okay, thank you. I was like, man, Mark, I mean, you need a driver?
And I will mention, that Circuit Transit, when they use their accessible vehicles, vans, can be used for Dial-A-Ride service to supplement a city's service or to use it exclusively as the Dial-A-Ride service. And it can also be used for using Prop A funds.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for your professional questions. As our finance director, somewhere back there, I can't see. Oh, she's there, okay. Sorry, Quinn was, so, Libby, you mentioned we had about $1 million in reserve in Prop A. How much of that is sunsetting, or we're getting close to that 3-year threshold?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I think we spend about between $700,000 and $1 million per year, and we're only getting 900 plus, so we're spending it at pretty much the rate we're getting it. So I don't think we're at any risk of losing Prop A funds right now.
Thank you. For the record, I wanted to hear that. So you mentioned something earlier, and I wanted to, for the records, we keep talking about these are special funds because Prop A, local transportation funds. But I'm looking at, I think, Service Alternative 2, which was recommended by staff. So I'm going to use that number, so $431,000. If I take the number that you indicated, if we were to exchange these funds, it would be roughly $330,000 in general fund money, with 75 cents on the dollar on the 431,000. I mean, roughly.
Sorry if I confused things earlier. I guess I was saying if we wanted to, say, fund an ongoing program and use Proposition A money but we didn't have enough of this restricted funds, then we could spend 75 cents of general fund money and get back $1 of Prop A money to come out ahead overall in funding a program like this.
I'm glad you clarified it. So I was just thinking.
But I wasn't suggesting we exchange our Prop A funds right now.
But since we have this extra money in Prop A, and if we wanted to, option-wise, we could, again, looking at Service Alternative 2, $431,000 for 6 months, to me is equivalent if we were lacking general fund revenues, as, we've seen, good performance from sales tax and some of our other key revenues. Again, is this an appropriate use for potentially, and you don't need to answer that, but.
Yes, that would be an option.
Okay, thank you. And then Daniel, last question, I promise. Daniel, success stories in other cities. Again, Manhattan Beach is a very unique city, as you've heard from the previous item. What are your success stories in other cities? What's the?
Yeah, I think, it's a problem, but it's a good problem to have. When we enter a market, it's the problem more often than not is, do we have enough cars to meet the demand? We typically are not, short of demand for service. In that environment could be Avalon, kind of an island where we replace their fixture out and Dial-A-Ride and blended into one, and we 3x ridership the previous year's ridership in the first 6 months. City of Long Beach, where we only operate Thursday to Friday, and it's kind of I wasn't going to jump up before, but in terms of metrics, cost per rider, wait time, passengers per vehicle hour, those things is what most will look at to determine if a program is successful. And our averages, average wait times 12 minutes or less. Our cost per rider sub $10. So when you look at metrics like that, whether it's Long Beach, whether it's Whittier, et cetera, where they all fall in that range, compared to the general microtransit landscape, are all, I would say, considered successes. I think when you look at programs that have been discontinued, it's, again, it's not, I can't think of one where it's been because of poor ridership. It's, if anything, comes down to funding, as we all know.
Gotcha. Patty, do you mind going to slide number 7? I just want to understand. And Danielle, these will probably be for you. So this is the recommended item by staff. So walk me through this. The next net cost is $72,000, $5 rate per vehicle, 3,000 rides was what I heard the estimate was. It's 15,000. So you're going to deduct $15,000 from the $72,000? Is that correct?
So and up to speed here.
If you have 3,000 riders, then they pay $5 per ride.
15,000.
Would that come off of our $72,000 month
Is this a
cost?
GRE question?
I know.
Well, no, he mentioned that the credit would be
it's just math.
deducted. He would collect the funds and it would be deducted. That's what he mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so does it come off our cost?
That's the big
That's what we
question.
wanna know.
It's a huge question.
I think my understanding was that this is the cost with that.
No, he said he would show the credit, but let's
And I
see.
thought, I was the opposite.
He said the credit, yeah.
The gross, okay, so then just whatever the.
Well, they'll answer.
In other words, does our cost go down if it's successful?
If people use it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include ads too.
Yeah, so, okay,
That's my
so,
next
so then for option 2, the gross monthly would be 90,104, it seems. And then, so that net is after.
After.
Yes, fair revenue.
Yeah,
If we have more, sorry, can I add on to your question?
Sure.
I
It's
mean,
a
just
friendly,
'cause
sure,
we're
sure. It's
thinking, yeah.
still before 9.
Right.
Running out of time.
So if we had 5,000 riders at $5, so that's $25,000, it could then go down a little more?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And then-
it's true.
Yeah, and then last question, I promise for now, it says one questions. So you mentioned approximately 3,500 on the median side of each advertisement per month per vehicle, so that's 14,000. Now, does that $14,000 come off of this 72,000?
Yes, technically, yes.
Okay,
It
so
would-
you would send us an invoice, you would show the gross, and then your rides, and then your advertisement, and then our net cost would be X.
Correct, but on the advertising, that 14th, there's a 50/50 ad split. So the fair revenue outside of processing is towards the city. The ad revenue is split 50/50, so technically.
It just keeps getting better, man. I just keep digging, and it just, that's all I have, Mayor.
That's it?
Those good questions.
Good, they were good questions.
They were good questions.
Eric, you've been terrific tonight in answering all these questions. I appreciate it. But if members of the public are going to ask how this service compares with rideshare services like Uber and Lyft, what's the problem we're trying to solve other than the cost, where we're helping to subsidize the cost? How would you explain the benefit that this program would provide when there are competitive rideshare programs out there that cost more?
So this service is a personalized service for the city and by the city. It is dedicated drivers that are dedicated to this city. You get to know the drivers. The cost is way less than half of a cost of an Uber or a Lyft ride. The app is similar in the sense that it's easy to use and you can get picked up at your house and dropped off at your destination. Those are some of the big benefits. You're also helping the environment, and you're doing altruistic things by using this system as well.
Where's the biggest what's the greatest need that we have that's not being satisfied by these other rideshare programs? Is it just a lower cost alternative, or how would you frame that question?
I think it's the convenience of having that service at your beck and call. And you can go to downtown. You don't have to hassle the finding parking. You don't have to worry about driving home again afterwards. It's an easy way to get around the city without using your car.
Thank you. Daniel, Did you want to add something? And I have a
If you don't mind,
question
real
for
quick.
you.
Yeah, I think I have two things. I think reliability. We talk about what happens certain time of day of the week when, there's, excess demand. That also, with a service like this, the riders know what their cost is every time. The city knows, worst case, what the cost is, for that month. But with the TNC, and we work with them, so it's, we like to think we kind of fill a gap that's left by them. Uber drivers, I would say, are, some of the first to admit, if an average, trip length in the city is 1.5 miles, that's not a moneymaker for an Uber driver. They're looking for a trip to LAX. Oftentimes once you do get in Uber, after maybe past, 1 or 2 drivers, you might be in the car, you see and hear something on their phone. If you look at their phone, you see that they have a $5 fare. They're letting that timer expire, waiting for the next one to come up. That's going to be, that's going to make them more money. So I think there's the reliability piece from the cost and getting it.
Is there a certification for drivers to help passengers with special needs?
It depends. So we are not a paratransit service, which would be different than an ADA accessible service.
So how does that then pertain to helping our older adults was referenced? There was also a reference to transporting wheelchairs. How do your vehicles align then with those riders with special needs?
Yeah, so the wheelchair accessible vehicle is fully ADA compliant and accessible. I would say the biggest difference from a service like ours that is ADA accessible than, say, a paratransit service is curb-to-curb service versus door-to-door service. So, but I think the other benefit I would say of with Circuit, all of our drivers are employees of our company. They're W-2 hourly employees, ideally hired locally, so that there's the job creation piece, but also the ability to train them further. Especially the drivers that are operating the wheelchair accessible vehicle goes through additional training from everything from, they all go through sensitivity training, et cetera, but using the tie downs, everything that is required for a wheelchair, accessible service. Where, even others in the microtransit space sometimes use the 10 and 9 model. So you can't train them as much for things like
I'm still confused. What's the representation we're making to our public with regard to what services are provided to those that have special needs?
ADA wheelchair accessibility, I think, is the biggest thing. Outside of that, it's hard to say, but it's accessible for anyone the same way.
Okay. You mentioned earlier in terms of what happens if your service becomes more popular than you have vehicles to provide customers. What that means is there'll be a longer and longer delay, I assume, particularly I'm thinking even traffic going all the way to the Douglas station and back. What has your data indicated happens if you're only contracting for 5 vehicles, particularly as I think about our summer months, particularly as I think about the World Cup? Tell me, what has been your experience?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things we have in our technology, for example, that maybe we don't have in place off the bat. But from the start, when we're pooling trips together, we set what is someone's max wait time going to be for a trip. When the algorithm is justifying pooling a trip together rather than putting someone in the queue, it's no one's trip is extended by X number of minutes by pooling a trip. So that might be a little more lenient in the beginning, and then we see that where we are undersupplied, we can pull those levers and slightly adjust them. So we might allow someone's wait time to be slightly longer. We might allow their trip time to be slightly longer to be able to pool trips together more than maybe we did at slower periods of time.
Under the contract that's envisioned for this trial period, will you have the capacity to scale, is what I'm getting at, with regard to the number of vehicles beyond just 5? Or are you just simply going to be looking at perhaps where the vehicles are based and any other strategies you might have?
I mean, we can certainly scale. I think obviously eventually get to a point of just how much capacity do we have to offer with 3 vehicles, and how much turnover are we accomplishing with those vehicles to get through your driver queue. So there can be a period that we hit where we're maxing out passengers per vehicle hour are exceeding this. It might be that the only solution is to add additional vehicles. But at the same time, when we looked at pilots, it's a lot easier to start at max and scale back than not start with enough. Someone has poor experience off the bat, they no longer trust the service and they'll come back.
Helpful, thank you. And for Libby, I just wanted to follow up, if I could, on your prior exchanges. I want to better understand, because I imagine we're going to hear from the older adult community about their use of dial-a-ride and the fact that Prop A funds would be used for this service in terms of how sustainable this program would be beyond the pilot. Obviously, that's what the point of the pilot is, to see what our costs actually are, but how is staff viewing the prospect of what we're going to have to tell our residents after 6 months when it might be too prohibitively expensive to have both of these programs go?
I don't know if I might defer that to our Parks and Recreation
Great.
Director, who's in tune with the dial-a-ride community.
Thank you.
That was
Your football.
masterful.
It's a great question, and it will be all about the metrics, but I think this is our opportunity. Because I mentioned a supplemental service with Lyft to our medical rides. So it is inherently inefficient paratransit to medical rides. There used to be just Torrance Memorial, Little Company of Mary. Now they're branching out. So this gives us that opportunity to see if we could be more efficient.
Helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Franklin.
Yes, quick question.
Wait, I see Eric has a follow-up.
And I can add to that. With regard to a long-term service, there are other funding options that can be made available, not just Prop A. So all of the other alphabet soup, the Measure R, Measure M, and Prop C can all be used for local transit if it's local return money. It makes a difference as to what other projects we want to fund with those restricted funds.
Thank you.
Great. Quick question, I just want to verify. Family of 4 gets in, there's 4 seats, it's 4 times 5? So it's $20 for that ride?
If we hold it to $5 per ride, if you want to put together a program that has a discounted fare for the second and third or fourth riders, then it can be done that way as well.
Okay.
The revenue changes,
And
of
then
course.
that money at the end of all the reconciliation, that is money that we can use to pay for that service, or, okay, so we
Yes.
do that.
Yes, it comes off the bottom line, becomes a lower net cost to us on a per month basis.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Haworth.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last question. Back to the age, and I don't know if this is a question for us or for Daniel. I remember the downtowner, and my son, I was telling my son about, who's now 30, so he meets the age limit just fine. But he was talking about how, I think he was in like 7th and 8th grade or 9th grade when we had it last. And he and his friends like, oh my God, we love this. We took it all the time to each other's houses. And I can't remember what the age limit was. Would there be consideration, I don't know if it's our decision or their decision or the state's decision, that it could be for like 13 and 14-year-olds? Because I'm just thinking about like junior guard drop-off. I'm just thinking about for middle school. So is that possible, or is that against the law?
I think from what I understand, it's the law that dictates the 16 and up.
Okay.
So it's not a company policy on
Okay.
whether, at what age you can have access and an account
Okay.
on the app.
We could look into that, but it's not your policy.
Correct.
It's the law, potentially.
In terms of using the service outside of that, really the only, law that we're, always cognizant of is a car seat, law. So
Yeah.
outside of that, whether you're with someone, with a family member or not,
Right.
adhering to that
Yeah.
is the only.
Probably should have put my 13-year-old in the car seat. All right, thank you very much.
Any other questions? If not, I'll open this item up to public comment. Any member of the public in chambers care to address this item? Or have we asked all the questions that there are to be asked?
Oh, come on, David. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Stefan Kampa. I'm also on the PPIC, so I will make sure I ask the appropriate questions. In the PPIC, we said we supported this to make it move forward, but tonight's the first night I'm seeing, the proposal itself. First of all, David, thank you for asking what the purpose and intent is, and also for the success measures. I think those were 2 excellent questions. Great presentation. First question I'd like to have you guys discuss after this is, do we want this program for anyone, or do we want it for Manhattan Beach residents only? Because as a resident, you may ask the question, well, am I subsidizing all the visitors here to the city or not? And I think that's worth a discussion topic. The success measures, I encourage us to make sure we define those before we kick off the pilot so that we know exactly what we want to measure and we take a baseline for that. One that's critical is safety. Just having an increase of having 3,000 rides or whatever the number is, that means we're not having those people driving. Many of those people may have had a cocktail or two, so I think that will reduce our risk of issues in the city. I like if we do move forward with a pilot, I would suggest that we have a couple of checkpoints in the pilot where we take a look at the metrics and say, where do we have the high usage points, and work with Circuit to adjust the number of vehicle hours that we have during that pilot period, because that would allow us to really learn and really adjust and see what we can do there. Communication. If we're going to do this, we need to talk to our community. We need to get them informed. We need to get ahead of them so they know more about it, and our plan should include a very strong communication plan. 18 seconds. Set locations before we, this downtown, we have people stopping at the intersection, terrible thing. Unforeseen, we talked about that a little bit. And the pilot, the funding sources, let's continue to really understand those. My last comment is, if anybody's been to Deer Valley or some of these other ski resorts, if you're part of the HOA with Deer Valley Manages, they have DV Direct. We use it extensively. It took 3-4 years to iron it out, but it's highly successful and everybody loves it. I'm just concerned about the bottom line cost. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Jim Burton. Just echoing what Stefan said, the questions on metrics and just overall what we're going to achieve, I think are great. Just a couple things, Councilwoman Holworth, you indicated just talking about kids and that dynamic or that demographic. I think understanding, at least for the pilot project, what are our dynamics, what are the real, going up to the village, the older adult program, if there's older adults, et cetera, but really trying to understand how, we only have 5 cars. I mean, assuming if you say 5, I would envision complete oversaturation and demand all the time. I love the downtowner. Stefan and I, we were talking about, he's got Deer Valley, but Tahoe area rapid transit for those that are up in Truckee. Tahoe area, it's free. It's called actually the downtowner. Absolutely fantastic. It works, but it's taken a few years in order to really understand and iron out all that. And as much as I love the idea of being able to do something like this, I would envision that the first several months or even the first year, there's going to be a lot of hiccups. And so really understanding what are we trying to achieve, what are the goals, what are the metrics? The costs to me seem extraordinarily high, but if somebody else is going to pay for this and we have Prop A funds and the state's giving us money or whatever it is, great, but at some point the costs are going to come back to us. And the advertising revenue at 50%, that seems steep, but again, at some point, the costs are going to come back to the city, and we might have some initial funding to get the project started, but what is the long-term viability of this, and then exactly where are we trying to get to, and what is the demographics? So, thank you.
Kelly wins. Shirley says. Yes.
Definitely not. Okay, Kelly Stroman, Executive Director for Downtown Manhattan Beach. Thank you for entertaining and bringing this to light. Appreciate Eric and staff, everybody, and working on this. Still miss the Downtowner dearly. It's just a sore spot in my heart because I was here when that came about. So I think this will be very popular with residents, but I would encourage it's not a residents only because we have visitors to town. We have people staying in Airbnbs. We have people staying in the hotels, and they need to be able to, at Westra, be able to access this. So it's not for residents only. It's for everybody in the city. The communication plan, the city, I think, is fantastic with their communication and publicity, and we are very good partners in that, as is the chamber. and everybody else who gets behind this. So I feel very confident that the word will get out. We will work with the businesses too to help promote it. And I love the idea of being able to offer coupons within the business and kind of, bounce back our incentive also. So I don't really have much else to add other than thank you. I encourage you to adopt this, do it, green light it, turbocharge the EV, NEV, whatever it is, and get this rolling by June. It's not going to do any good to get it rolling by August. So let's do it, okay? Thank you.
How do you really feel, Kelly?
Jill Lampkin, Chamber of Commerce. I had a whole list and I kept checking them off because you were asking questions and you guys mentioned things. So thank you for shortening my list now. A couple of things I did want to highlight on there. Everyone mentioned about employers, them being employees. Employees can be ambassadors. We need ambassadors at this point, especially with all of the international visitors that we have coming in. An Uber driver is not going to be an ambassador to tell you all of the wonderful things that there are to do in Manhattan Beach. Speaking of international travelers, they are used to using public transit, and we will have a lot of them riding up and down the Metro line. And so having the ability for them to summon this vehicle there would be an excellent thing because they are very familiar with that. One of the things that no one brought up anywhere is the fact that maybe it's because I think, you were on the Outdoor Dining Commission too, or whatever we were called, task force, where this was actually one of the objectives that we brought up in there, and it was one of the things that came back to council was that if we were to provide a service that would give residents another way to get downtown, that could potentially reduce the parking demand that the Coastal Commission would require of us should we want to pursue outdoor dining. So I think that's an important consideration to remember. And we know from all of the surveys that we've done that residents are very supportive of outdoor dining. Hence, if we link those two together, I think you get immediate support for this program as well. In terms of number of vehicles, Kelly and I both can poll what we had in previous years of downtown, or we can tell you how many vehicles we had. I think we can do that very easily. And long-term funding in terms of that, I mean, if it's successful in all these other cities, I figure we can figure out how we can do it here too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. Carol Patterson, Manhattan Beach Boulevard. Have a couple of questions. One is I agree totally that outside residents should be able to use this service. My question is, if somebody is coming from another part of Los Angeles, say, by bus, can they call from a bus stop and get service from this company? I assume they can, and that they don't have to prove any connection with Manhattan Beach to use the service. The other question I had may have been answered, and I know it was talked about, but Dial-A-Ride does the rides from Manhattan Beach to out-of-town medical appointments. Will this company do that as well?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public in chambers care to comment on this item? Seeing none. Patty, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to offer comment on this item?
No requests on Zoom.
In which case, I'll close public comment and turn over to my council colleagues. Councilmember Franklin.
Yes. Hi.
Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Franklin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I looked at this pretty closely. I've got some concerns, some deep concerns. My concern is about the kids. They're going to ride it. Underage kids are going to ride it. It deeply concerns me of them being on a vehicle. Parents don't know the driver. They don't know, the driver doesn't necessarily is presumably going to be new to Manhattan Beach. It'd be great if we could, hire locals for that. But that just assumption of, what would the term be? Assumption of, authority or whatever, was passed on to that driver. And it is going to be used to come home from school. There is going to be a surge at the high school when they find that they can take this and they can, put it on their credit card and it can take them, take them places. The parents are going to ask them to do it, that type of thing. But it just doesn't give me a comfortable feeling. I don't know if if the drivers are vetted as much as, like, say, a commercial, rideshare program, but that's one. Number two, you asked me to ask a couple of times, it's per seat, right? So a family of four is not $5. A family of four is going to be 5 times 4. It's going to be $20. Okay? Uber. So I've been tracking Uber since yesterday afternoon and a couple of times today. Yesterday at 5:34, Monday, 5:34 p.m. I put in Valentino's to get all the way east to Artesia to the pier. It was $8 and, I'm sorry, it was $7.16. So that's going to be a $13 differential to a family of four. To go from my house, which is just near Sepulveda, west of Sepulveda, to the pier was $5.98. So again, for a family of four, our service, or this service would cost $20. It doesn't even come close to the $20 threshold. For today at 2 p.m., it was $8.36 from Artesia, and it was $5.96 from just west of Sepulveda. The only time it got over $10 was today at 4:40 p.m. from Artesia to the pier was $8.36. For some reason, west of Sepulveda, a couple of blocks to the pier, it was $10.19. So is it going to be worth it? Are we an affluent community that can afford this? Absolutely. Is it going to give them anything other than an Uber, than what's available now? I don't know. I mean, as far as an experience, I don't think so. I don't see it. I see an issue, as I mentioned, with liability, hours beyond 10 p.m. We've had some pretty tragic accidents here that were kind of late, and a lot of them had to do with alcohol related. So, with Uber, you can send somebody in home on Uber, at midnight. With this service, you can't. It stops at 10 o'clock. Unless, we could have it, adjust the hours to 12 p.m. Advertising. One of the downtowners, I recall, was trying to generate the revenue from advertising. And I think there was a quote that they said, well, since we couldn't do beer or alcohol, we couldn't maximize the revenue generation. I asked today, earlier, if alcohol advertising would be allowed, and I guess it's up to the council to decide, or I don't know if we have to allow it. I just see a lot of confusion on the part of residents. I see its limitations as far as, I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see people coming in and either park at they're not going to stop all the way in Redondo. They're going to come in on a street in Manhattan Beach, and then they're going to call this service. Because once they learn about geofencing, they're going to know that. So it's going to go ahead and create random parking issues, I believe, around the city. There's just a lot of questions for me, a lot of unknowns. And then the biggest unknown is going to be Waymo. We've already had a meeting with Waymo. They're going to be coming to town. That's autonomous. You don't need a driver. the cost is going to reflect that, and it's going to be a lot more cost-effective. And here we are, we're going to be having a 6-month commitment and a lot of money, that we are committing. Is it not ours? Yes, it is ours, okay? It's tax money. It's being paid by state tax money. We all pay state income taxes. We all pay a portion of our property taxes go to the state. This is our money. So I just don't see enough of a differentiation, and I see issues that could be rather serious if we adopt this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Haworth.
Yes, thank you so much. I think it was Jill who said lots of good questions back and forth. It was a great discussion. I want to appreciate the representative from Circuit who really had, I felt, really thorough answers. I really appreciate that. And I'm excited to support this program. I think to answer some of Stefan's questions about, what problem are we trying to solve? One problem we're trying to solve is to take more cars off the road because this allows someone to, keep their car at home so you're not using parking downtown and to get around more easily. It makes accessibility for some who can't drive or, can't afford to drive. This is the summer to do a pilot with the World Cup happening, by the way. LASC won their CONCACAF match 3-0 tonight. Thank you very much. But anyway, with the World Cup coming this summer, and I think, again, it was Jill who talked about the international travelers, this is going to be so helpful for our city, not just for them. And it is different than Uber. It's not replacing Uber or Lyft. Remember, we're still going to have Uber and Lyft. Waymo will come. We as a city don't pay Uber and Lyft and Waymo, so we don't have to pay them too. But I'm sure these folks, these employees, instead of, again, contractors through Uber and Lyft, can be trained, and we'll talk about our wonderful town, and it will be a wonderful addition. I shouldn't have been so surprised. I asked a question about Prop A and dial-a-ride, and no one is proposing to take dial-a-ride away. I think we're proposing to add even more functionality or more choices for folks, but let's keep something in mind. It costs around $940,000 to operate dial-a-ride a year for 6,500 riders. Steve, what's that? I think it's like, is that $143 per ride or something?
14.
1,450. No.
14.
$14? No. For $940,000 and 6,500 riders, is $1,450? I had different numbers, sorry. Because I was doing it then, that it's much cheaper. This program we're proposing is much, much cheaper. Okay, it's $1,450. Good job. No, you're right.
You're right, 1461. He's good.
1461. I am so sorry for ever doubting your math.
Don't get Stefan fired up.
My neighbor who is German also, I am so sorry. Okay. No, you're right. The point being, this is what happens when I start. It's a much more efficient. That's what I said.
Yeah, it's not 14.
Hello.
Wait, how much is it?
145.
145.
Let's hear it. Go, Amy. I was right. The point being, that's a very expensive ride, right? And so everyone said, and it's true, this is a lot of money that we're talking about for a pilot, right? Let's say it could be, if it's the service alternative 1 is $81,000 a month, and service alternative 2 is 60-something thousand a month. That's a lot cheaper than dial-a-ride, which is, again, if it's $940K, that is, I did it somewhere, I did the math and I lost it, but that's a lot less money. Okay, so we do this pilot, we see how many seniors, take to it, we see what's happening. It could be a better system for our community all around, right? And it may not be, but it really could be, right? So we need to we have a fiduciary responsibility to try this pilot, right? This is the right thing to do at this time. And people did love the downtowner. It was not, I forget who said it was brilliant. It wasn't for lack of ridership that didn't work. It was their business plan, and that was on them. All right? So let's give it a try and see if it works. So I'll be supporting this, and I want us to, the fact that we can get all this data, we don't get data from Dial-A-Ride right now, right? We see, we know how many riders ride. If we don't know, we're going to get data. It's really a smart thing. So I'm very excited.
Thank you. Councilmember Charette.
Thank you. I guess I have a process question. So how did we decide upon this company, I guess, just in the sense of, did we go out and take a look if this is the most appropriate cost model, or can somebody explain that to me, please?
So essentially, Circuit Transit is the only type of point-to-point, on-demand microtransit system in Southern California.
Gotcha. So we have nothing to compare it to in the sense. So I get the specialty service. I'm just, again, I heard fiduciary responsibility. I think fiscal responsibility here goes hand in hand as well. And yes, this is a good enhancement for Dial-A-Ride, but 5 cars at $72,000 a month. What's that, Stefan? Oh, sorry, never mind.
Don't listen to him. He moved the decimal wrong.
Never mind. Yeah, so, sorry. So that's still like $15,000 a month. Does this go to the drivers? If so, then I probably want to apply for a job. Or maybe it's for Daniel, like a question. So I guess I would want to know why is it so expensive per car, are you paying a higher wage? I'm not sure. Or does it include insurance and all your, I get it, obviously profit, but I guess I would want to know that. And then, again, we're getting ready to enter into a budget, and if you all look at your dashboards that finance puts up and you see our revenues are not trending well, there might come a time in the next month that we might need $330,000 in general fund monies, and you could have had this in your toolbox to be able to go get that swap, and we've done that many times before. It's just a tool in the toolbox. I think it's a good idea. I just want to make sure that we vetted it. I know we're, jamming through, trying to get it done in June, but I don't like to rush through things, especially like 2 weeks outside of the budget. And then lastly, I guess, do we have any control point, or can we get metrics on a monthly basis so we can see how we're doing? I think I heard 3,000 rides. Can we see how close we are to that number as we kick this off? And can we have control points in place, measurable control points to say, this is really working, or it's like, will we be able to pull the plug, or is it 6 months, 6 months and that's it? Or is it like any other contract where we can get out if it's not working? That's it.
Very good. Councilmember Charnay.
Thank you. I have a lot to say, so hopefully I can get it all organized here. I am very excited about this possibility. I've talked to a lot of residents. I think Stefan and it's getting late, so I'm totally blanking on Jim's name. But they both, when you've traveled to other cities that have, I was up in Santa Barbara, they have a circuit system. I know Santa Monica has a modified. So there are a lot of cities, other cities that are doing this successfully. For me, it's finding the right formula. I appreciate being fiscally conservative and making sure that we have the appropriate funding. I think Prop A funding, the Prop A funding that we have right now that would enable us to look at this is a great way to look at it. And unfortunately, the reality is FIFA is coming up. So if we're going to do a pilot program to address the volume of visitors, of traffic, this is the time to do it. So unfortunately, I don't think we have much wiggle room to wait because they are coming. we're going to have a lot of, and it's exciting that they're coming because they're going to go to our businesses, they're going to go to our restaurants. And this is, even though we're spending money, I see it as an investment in our businesses. These people are going to spend dollars. And while I appreciate, Mayor Pro Tem bringing up, very validly, that you can get an Uber for cheaper, you can get Waymo, that's an option. These people who have the family of 4, when I am riding by myself, I have a different consideration than I'm riding with, my whole family of 5 people. So I'm not putting us in this type of vehicle, but it's another offering that we can have in our city where we can pull people, we can take cars off of the road, create more parking, and possibly make room for outdoor dining, which I know a lot of people want to see more of. It's going to be, we know how congested our streets are in the summer, peak holidays. We're going to be able to take some of the cars off the street. One of the things I'd like to explore is having parking for visitors, that they can take a train or take their car, drive, park there, call for the service, and then truly for the last mile use EV transit so that we do have less cars on the road. That's that, traffic calming, and reduce parking demands. And also the fact that they're EV fleets, we're taking, emissions off of the street as well. So these are the considerations. I think it's a great opportunity for us to explore to see if this will work. So I do have a motion on the floor that I will try to articulate because, and I'm open to suggestions, but I'd like to go with a hybrid of alternative 1 and 2. Let's see, 1 and 2. Yeah. And explore a reduced rate for seniors so that it's not a $5 rate, and have a regular rate for non-seniors, and maybe adjust the hours so that we can capture, and I'm open to 12 and 9 Monday through Thursday, 12 to 10 Friday and Saturday, and 12 to 8 on Sunday when demand is maybe slightly less. So, and see how those hours will affect, and we'll be able to, as the pilot, we'll be able to see, and include charging maybe at the yard as a possibility so that we can offset some of the expenses, and then include ad revenues. I'm not opposed to alcohol ads, but if other people are, then that's a consideration that I'm open to. But I think this is the opportunity for us to proceed and see if this will work, and I'm supportive.
Friendly.
As I have a motion.
So I
Yes.
seconded it. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I know that you have, so you're saying, first of all, I want to understand
Yes.
both alternative 1 and 2 say 11, and you're saying noon?
I think noon.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's what you were saying.
Yes, because that extends it a little bit. I think the dining hours.
Okay.
That
Just wanted-
allows us to extend it.
But I don't, at this time, I don't, the ad thing, I don't want to throw, I would not support that right now because I want to see where we can do without it. And they could come back in a couple months. Say come back, but
Okay.
I think in order to get some other support, if it's available, I would say to take that off the table for now.
So no ads at all? Like if Skechers wanted it or Chevron wanted an ad and sponsor, would you be exposed?
I'd be open to that. I just think by opening that up now, you've thrown in a couple unknowns into the decision-making process for some folks. That's,
Okay.
I could leave it as is, and let's hear what the comments are.
Okay.
The hour is getting late. I'm going to try and be efficient.
Oh, 9:30.
Not that no one else has, we've talked about this for a bit, and there's been good comments and good questions. I was skeptical when this item came back, having served on council along with Councilor Haworth when the downtowner proposal was first proposed, and then, as was indicated, the proposal changed. I'm skeptical of this proposal, but I'm willing to try a trial. I'm willing to support a trial, subject to certain conditions. Why? Why is because of what was described. We're facing the World Cup. How is our downtown going to accommodate all these visitors? What does this add on top of existing rideshare programs? Frankly, it offers a supplemental means of transit. It does offer, for certain types of riders, a reduced fare, depending upon the number we choose. I like the idea that we could advertise to those that might be coming by Metro Rail that they can pick this up at a Metro train. To address one of the speakers, I think we should address the consideration of what happens if that person from out of town comes to a bus stop and wants that last mile. I'd welcome an opportunity to see how staff might address that consideration, because the whole idea behind this is to facilitate transit to our downtown. One comment which should be made about the downtowner, it did not go east of, was it Valley Ardmore? Sepulveda, excuse me. So it was a restrictive service that did not serve our community. This is viewed as something more inclusive.
Great point.
That's one of the reasons why I'm supportive of it. I share the concerns that Councilmember Haworth mentioned about advertising. Certainly liquor advertisement and other items that we prohibit in other contexts we would not want to allow on this vehicle going all around town in our residential neighborhoods. I would like to explore how we could restrict advertising on these vehicles and still make this model work. But we need to be realistic, as was discussed, many of us explored. This will come out of, as was mentioned, an alphabet soup of different funding sources we have. We use those funds for other services. One of the reasons why I'm also in favor of this trial is to the extent that at some point our existing dial-a-ride program will become cost prohibitive as the number of our residents age, as the number of residents make use of our existing dial-a-ride program. It may be far less sustainable in the future. I think it is wise to look at certain other models. Is this data going to be conclusive, starting at potentially as late as noon, going to 9? Is that really going to cover our older adult community? No. But we will get some data from this, which I think will be helpful. I think those are my comments, so I'm receptive to the motion subject to advertising and also a discussion of hours or some options that we request staff to come back with us. Other council members, I see Mayor Pro Tem Franklin, you would like to speak first.
Yes.
Do others want to speak?
Go ahead. Was there a cost to use Downtowner?
No.
Not initially, but then they came, if I may. I will jump back and then I turn to our subject matter expert, who's our traffic engineer. But my recollection is initially it was going to be at no charge. But then when they came back after completely changing their model, no longer electric vehicles, they were going to use sedans, and they were going to charge us some number which was just crazy. Wasn't it like it was more than $500,000 a year? It was substantially different.
Right, it was like 600.
Did you want to, please, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just want to make a couple of comments, some more comments, is how are we going to handle the surge of, of FIFA? You're going to handle it with Uber. There are probably, if we look at a map right now, I mean, we're restricting ourselves, we're not restricting ourselves because the ultimate consumer makes the decision. And they'll decide whether $5 per seat is too much. And things that I read that were problematic with the circuit was long wait times. I mean, it's going to take, during the surge areas, it could take 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Inaccurate data being provided that I researched. More recently from Huntington, from Huntington Beach, inconsistent pickup and drop-offs and the like. So the service is not going to be equivalent, I think, as an Uber. There's just a lot more Uber cars around. People aren't going to be waiting for them. They probably know the roads better around here than anybody. I just, again, I will not be supporting this because I think it's creating or has the opportunity to create more problems than it's going to solve.
So my last comment would be, I mean, I'm going to try to, talk to the maker of the motion and get a motion that you can support, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a pilot, and we need to do it for a lot of good reasons. I hope those, the NEVs smell better than the Uber cars that I get. I just want to point that out. But and to the mayor's point, I mean, you brought up what none of us have mentioned, that the downtown was so limited geographically. It's all they could afford and all we could, and et cetera. So I think this is going to be really a big win, and appreciate that. And also what you mentioned is that we do need to look at alternatives or, the most efficient way to service the most residents, especially the senior adult population. So this is a good way to try. This is a good way to start. So I know if I could ask the maker of the motion, I brought up the question about alcohol or not talking about ads right now. And also, maybe you look at the 11 o'clock if that helps more seniors get around. I didn't consider that. I was like, okay, 12, I eat lunch at 12. That works for me. But
I'd be open to that. I think we would have some data from our dial-a-ride to see when we can capture more of those rides maybe, and we can look at that data and make the adjustments. But I would be open to 11 or 12.
Okay.
And capturing it till 9 or till 10.
Okay.
On the back end, so.
Okay. And do we also, do you accept the friendly amendment of?
No ads for now.
No ads for now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. But you're willing, but as a maker of the friendly motion, I'm not saying no ads for the whole, they could come
Just
back.
examine it, yeah.
Okay.
I have an initial question that is just for city staff. Are you looking for direction as to what can come back with some options, or are you looking for direction so that you can execute because of the timing?
Yes, the latter.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask.
And clarification on that last statement about the ads. I think we're not sure we understand
Then
that.
let's hold off on the ads for the 6 months right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me see
Is
if any
that-
other council member has any other questions on
Will
this.
that work for the vendor? I don't know. I mean, that's,
It sounds like.
Okay.
we do.
wait, there's.
Can we
que-
just ask one clarifying question?
Yeah, please.
No, as part of the pilot program period, I think that we should be assessing if there is the opportunity for ads.
Okay.
Is that, what I'm hearing is you don't want ads on the vehicles, but, we should, if there is a desire for us to go out and talk to corporate sponsors to see if there is a
Yeah,
desire.
to get corporate sponsors,
Sponsors.
yes, we should pursue that. Let me say no alcohol right now, because I think that would make it more in line with our community. And then that would be my friendly motion.
Accepted.
And then for my vote, I want to maybe follow up, if I could, with the community development director, if whether there's gradations of ads. What are we
Gradation.
contemplating with just a limit on alcohol ads? Does that mean a full wrap of something else, like a tennis shoe? Like, let's say, hypothetically, just to use a brand, a Nike vehicle, which is driving all around town, where there's a corporate headquarters of another shoe company. Just curious.
Yeah, fair.
I think it's more of the opportunity for staff to check in to see if there's interest and how much that could potentially reduce the cost to the
Right.
city.
Which would then come back to council to approve?
That can come back to council.
Great.
Just the ad part.
Okay, I think that would be acceptable.
And Traffic Engineer Zanfleet is suggesting that in our research, if we were to find a viable option, we could always bring that to council for their consideration.
So like Chevron could sponsor the EV vehicles.
correct.
And that'd be great, okay. No one got the joke? You did, okay, thank you.
In which case, if there's no further comments or questions, we'll call for the question.
Thank you. Thank you for all the discussion. on
Thank
that.
you.
Motion passes 311.
Any further clarification needed by the city clerk? If not, we will move on to item L, City Council requests and reports, including AB 1234 reports. Are there any requests for 1234 reports?
Not
I could talk about my vacation, but then.
No.
If not, we'll move on to item M for future agenda items. Colleagues?
I have one.
Councilmember Tarnay.
I'd like to direct staff to explore code changes to the north end parking requirement for businesses to mirror that of the downtown businesses.
I second
Second.
that.
Okay.
I'm the liaison.
Okay.
So we both are.
So we have a second by Councilmember Shurillian. Any other future agenda items? Councilmember
I
Shurillian.
have one, and love to get some support, is what can we do to further educate our public safety or downtown businesses with respect to the First Amendment auditors?
Second.
I was
Sorry,
going
you didn't
to
want me to-
frame it in a different way, and that's all right. Mr. City
Yes,
Attorney.
I think,
No, that's
Sorry.
great. No, but I just want, but thank you. I appreciate that. I know Quinn mentions we did something 5 or 6 years ago, and that, to me, I am active on social media, and it is a real problem everywhere. And the fact that they're obstructing public right of way, I totally understand. I was at City Hall when they came in with the cameras in our face. I get that, but when they're obstructing right of way for, and maybe, Mayor, you want to frame it a little differently, but the gist of it is, I want to get the information out there, because there's no room for bullying, and that's a tactic, is to, anyway, I'll stop talking.
Let me turn it to the city attorney. How do you suggest this
Yes,
be
I
framed?
think,
'Cause we had talked about this.
My plan would be to talk to the police chief tomorrow and explore different alternatives, and then probably send you perhaps a confidential memo on our research. We could also check with other cities at no cost to the city. I could find out from my firm if other cities have developed some kind of policy.
I want to be careful because of the Brown Act, and we
Right.
now have 2 council members that have signed on to one approach. But the approach that I was thinking is we need to be able to better inform our public
Right.
about what is a reasonable First Amendment right versus harassment, and something that is actionable and something that would provide rights to our residents. So how do you suggest we proceed?
Yeah, so I think the first step is for me to talk to the police chief, and then we'll get back to the council, probably by an email, as to some answers to that. I do understand the desire and need to educate the public about that, and so maybe there's something we can craft for the public.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate the mayor jumping, because it's all about the public and the perception, and my concern is, when you're on the public right of way, your First Amendment, you can't really, police can't do much because of potentially, or just harassing someone. You can't, I don't know, can you call the police if someone's harassing you on a public right of way? I guess
That's what, we'll brainstorm on that, but you're right. I mean,
Yeah. It's sort of a know your rights campaign, sort of
like
like what
that.
people have done, for immigrants recently. It's like know your rights.
I like that.
You know?
Just
Yes.
information, because
Yeah,
it
so
is-
we'll
it
see
is
if we can
real.
come up with something that can be distributed to the
Because
public.
it's a way of protecting the public.
know what they can and can't do.
Right.
Thank you for the
Exactly.
second. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good. All right. Any other future agenda items?
Yes, Mayor,
Pro Tem?
I'd like the council to consider opposing the county's June 2nd ballot, which would implement an additional 0.5 percentage point general sales tax throughout the county for homelessness. It's called the Essential Services Restoration Act.
We'll need to talk about it, see what our role is as a council.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay.
Any other items? All right, seeing none, is there a city manager report?
Not this evening, thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, is there another one of your lengthy city
Yeah,
attorney
it just depends
reports?
on what the time is and what you,
What the pool is.
what the pool is. Yeah. I've got nothing tonight.
All right. In which case, we have no informational items. Actually, we do have informational on the agenda forecast, no closed session. For adjournment, we will be adjourning to a closed session on Monday, April 13th, 2026 at 3:30 PM in the City Council chambers. We stand adjourned.